Chapter 3156. Back then, the God Lord of 10 Directions had been an unprecedented genius. He had become a Tao True Saint in 100 years, a Tao Lord in 1,000 years, and a Tao Saint in 100,000 years. He had swept through the human race, the Yao race, and even the world of other races. He rarely had a match in the same realm. Such talent, such speed of improvement, and such formidable strength truly made him an unprecedented genius. Back then, I lived a carefree life, doing as I pleased. I dared to love and hate, sweeping through the world and sweeping through all. Even if the path ahead of me was filled with thorns, I would cut them down with my sword. Anyone who stood in my way would be killed. Anyone who disturbed my heart would die. The God Lord of 10 Directions' calm voice was suffused with a vast and domineering aura. When Su Fong thought of the God Lord of 10 Directions sweeping through the world in an invincible manner, he couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Not only did I possess transcendent talent, but I also possessed hot-bloodedness and boundless courage. In the world of other races, I witnessed the strength of the other races and thought of the insignificance of the human race. Thus, I tried in vain to rely on my own strength to save the human race, to lead the human race to stand proudly among the myriad races of the primal chaos. However, I was wrong. I was terribly wrong. At this point, the God Lord of 10 Directions let out a long sigh, a look of regret on his face. Su Fong could only listen, not daring to interrupt. I had the talent to become an immortal, but I did not have the intelligence to match my talent. Most importantly, I did not understand the human heart. Back then, I actually wanted to gather the resources and strength of the entire human race to help me become an immortal. I was truly naive. I admit that I did this for my own selfish reasons. I wanted to borrow the strength of the entire human race to prove my Tao and help me reach the peak of the great Tao. But I didn't do it entirely for myself. My ultimate goal was not only to become an immortal, but also to protect the human race, to lead the human race to stand proudly in the primal chaos so that no other race would dare to bully us. I also wanted to expand the territory of the human race so that the human race could rise among the myriad races. But in the end, I failed miserably, defeated by my own naivety. Su Fong inwardly sighed. The God Lord of 10 Directions was not wrong. His thoughts were truly too naive. In the world of cultivators, it was nothing more than being eaten by others and being eaten by others. If one did not look out for themselves, the heavens and earth would destroy them. How many of them would think for the future of the entire human race? Even if there were some experts with foresight, it would be difficult to change people's minds. Many of the upper echelons of the human race treated Divine Lord 10 Directions as a madman. Perhaps they were well aware that Divine Lord 10 Directions had the potential to become an immortal, and that he was wholeheartedly serving the human race. However, which one of those warriors wasn't selfish and greedy? Which one of them didn't want to reach the peak? Why would they agree to his conditions and use the power of the entire human race to help him become undying? God Lord 10 Directions suddenly looked at Su Fong and sighed. I'm not as good as you in this aspect. Su Fong was stunned. Divine Lord of 10 Directions continued, I saw the scene of you suppressing the human cultivators in the world of consciousness outside the Thunder Pool Palace. You are brave and resourceful. You kill decisively, and you are cruel and merciless. Your talent is not even 1/10 of what I was back then. However, in terms of intelligence and scheming, I'm not even 1/100th of what you are. Su Fong smiled embarrassedly and said, Senior, you're just confident in your strength and don't care about scheming. Junior, on the other hand, is not strong enough, so I can only use my brain. You are indeed smart. I'm afraid you're the only one in the entire human race who understands me. How can I not understand people's minds? I just don't care about them. Divine Lord of 10 Directions smiled. Su Fong asked, Senior, who is the Divine Lord of 10 Directions that was killed in your remnant memories? Who is the one who led the foreign race army to attack the human race? Are there 3 divine lords of 10 directions? He led the foreign race army to attack the human race? I didn't expect him to really do it. The divination of Tian Su Daozu in the Heaven's Fate platform was indeed correct. The human race will be destroyed by my hands in the end. Divine Lord of 10 Directions closed his eyes and showed a pained expression. After a long time, Divine Lord of 10 Directions sighed. He stared at Su Fong and asked, "You're dead? You've become a saint and formed 3 fruit. Don't tell me you still don't understand why there are 3 completely different Divine Lords of 10 Directions?" Su Fong pondered for a while. Then, he realized. Bearing fruits, good fruits, evil fruit. That senior who was killed by the human experts was your embodiment of bearing fruit. The one who led the foreign race army to attack the human race was your embodiment of evil fruit. As for you, senior, you are the embodiment of good fruits. Divine Lord of 10 Directions nodded and said, "You can say that. This is related to the cultivation of the Jiuxuan's everlasting scripture. I might as well tell you now so that you won't have to take any detours in the future." Then, Divine Lord of 10 Directions told Su Fong everything. Su Fong pricked up his ears, afraid that he would miss a word. The Jiuxuan's everlasting scripture is actually a heaven-bestowed scripture that I obtained after comprehending the heavenly Tao's strange phenomenon during a fortuitous encounter when I was wandering the chaos outer realm. When cultivated to the extreme, one can grasp the true essence of the great Tao and coexist with the heavenly Tao. It's also because I have the Jiuxuan's everlasting scripture that I have the confidence to become immortal. I comprehended from the Jiuxuan's everlasting scripture that all life forms have to go through the process of birth, aging, and death. It's the same for cultivators and foreign race cultivators. Only by transcending all the restrictions and becoming the heavenly Tao can one live eternally like the heavenly Tao. What Divine Lord of 10 Directions said was the most profound truth of cultivation. It was almost the same as what the longevity lamp said. Cultivating the laws of the great Tao is to grasp the laws and principles of the heavenly Tao. Cultivating the physical body is to transform one's life and surpass the limits of life. When cultivating the Jiuxuan's everlasting scripture to the Tao Saint realm, the most important thing is not to cultivate the laws of the great Tao or the physical body, but to cultivate the heart. In other words, you have to sever yourself and forget your emotions. Su Fong was surprised. Cultivate the heart and forget your emotions? It's ultimately difficult for cultivators to defy the heavens. Only by following the heavenly Tao and becoming as emotionless as the heavenly Tao can one transcend everything and become the heavenly Tao and exist with it. Su Fong asked in confusion, could it be that at the end of cultivation, everything will become cold and emotionless? Then what's the point of becoming immortal? The emotionless heavenly Tao doesn't mean that you have to give up everything and become cold and emotionless. Instead, it means that you have to transcend all emotions and desires and not be shackled by them. You won't be controlled by emotions and desires. You may seem emotionless, but you're actually very emotional. Su Fong seemed to understand a little. He seemed to understand everything. However, when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't grasp anything. He was still confused. If you want to sever yourself and become immortal, your current realm isn't enough. It's meaningless to think so much. Divine Lord of 10 Directions shook his head and smiled. Su Fong continued to ask, then how can I sever myself and forget my emotions in the Tao Saint realm? The Tao Saint realm is the first step to sever oneself and forget your emotions. This step doesn't require you to forget your emotions. Instead, you have to think of every possible way to reveal your true self. All humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires. They have 3 completely different selves: obsession, good, and evil. However, they are hidden very deeply and control cultivators at all times. It's difficult to detect them. If you want to sever oneself and forget your emotions, you have to cultivate all your emotions and desires to the extreme before you can sever them. Did you just undergo nirvana? Becoming a saint means condensing the three fruits of obsession, good and evil. It's to reveal your three different selves. Nirvana? After becoming a saint and condensing the three fruits, you have to continuously nurture the three fruits and cultivate them into three bodies. I call them the three corpses, which are the obsession corpse, good corpse, and evil corpse. Nurture the three fruits? Cultivate the obsession corpse, good corpse, and evil corpse? Whether it was obsession, good, or evil, they weren't the true self. They were fake selves controlled by emotions and desires. When a cultivator's consciousness was controlled by obsession, good or evil thoughts, they would do things that went against their conscience. They were no different from walking corpses. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions called the three corpses. It was very appropriate. Only now did Su Fong vaguely understand why he couldn't improve after becoming a Tao saint. It turned out that his cultivation as a Tao saint required him to cultivate the three corpses in addition to his realm and cultivation. Only by cultivating the obsession, good, and evil corpses can one ascend to the Daozu. As for the Daozu, one has to sever the three corpses and sever all their mortal roots to reach the realm of emotionlessness and emotion. Only then can one reach the peak of the great Tao. This was a rare opportunity. Su Fong continued to ask, "How do you nurture the three fruits and cultivate the three corpses?" The obsession corpse requires you to continuously nurture and nourish it with your obsession. What you want the most and what you're most obsessed with will be the nutrients for your cultivation. Cultivating the good corpse requires good thought. Cultivating the evil corpse requires you to nurture evil thoughts, using slaughter, destruction, evil, and cruelty as nutrient. Sigh. Although I cultivated the three corpses back then and obtained the Tao immortal realm and was about to enter the Daozu realm, an accident happened at the crucial step. At this point, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions let out a long sigh. His expression was gloomy. Su Fong asked, "Senior, you want to become eternal and reach the peak of the great Tao. This is your obsession, and you use it to cultivate the obsession corpse. Senior protects the human race in order to cultivate the good corpse. Senior slaughters wantonly in order to cultivate the evil corpse." That's the general idea. However, when it comes to true cultivation, it's extremely dangerous. Whether it's the obsession corpse, the good corpse, or the evil corpse, once they lose their sense of self and become dominated by the three corpses, they'll sink into eternal oblivion. Take the evil corpse for example. Once dominated by the evil corpse, it'll be difficult for you to free yourself from the endless evil and slaughter. Not only will it be difficult for you to improve, but you'll also become a monster that only knows how to kill. You must be careful about this. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions warned Su Fong carefully. Then, he glanced at Su Fong and smiled awkwardly. "You're about to cultivate the eternal Tao heart. Your Tao heart and willpower are incomparably strong. Naturally, you don't have to worry about the evil corpse controlling you. I was worrying too much." Then, he let out a long sigh. "It's precisely because I was controlled by the evil corpse that I ended up in this state. Could it be that there's a problem with Senior's cultivation? It's not that there's a problem with my cultivation. It's because back then, the evil corpse was killing everywhere. In addition, some human experts coveted a peerless treasure in my possession. As a result, I was hunted down by the human experts. Haha, the human experts really thought highly of me. They actually sent more than a dozen Daozu to hunt me down. Back then, I was only a peak Tao Saint expert. Although I had the strength to fight against the Daozu, how could I fight against the entire human race's experts? With no other choice, I could only split into three. I separated the obsession corpse, the good corpse, and the evil corpse. In other words, I had 3 divine lords of 10 directions. Chapter 3157. My execution corpse was killed by a human expert. However, with the death of the execution corpse, the evil corpse and I obtained the execution corpse's power and used it to successfully ascend to Daozu. There was originally an extremely delicate balance between the three corpses. Unfortunately, with the death of the execution corpse, the three corpses lost their balance. The evil corpse and I had different beliefs, so we clashed fiercely. Although the execution corpse was killed by a human expert, it was not impossible for me to ascend to the immortal realm. As long as the evil corpse killed all the humans, it could ascend to the immortal realm. As for me, I had to protect the human race and ascend to the immortal realm. Unfortunately, I was not tolerated by the human race. I was chased and fled to the ruins of God left behind by the Reizeigu people to hide. How could I protect the human race? The good corpse of God Master of 10 Directions sighed faintly. His voice was filled with helplessness and bitterness. Su Fang said, "It turns out that the evil corpse intentionally spread the problematic Jiuxian Wu Ji Sutra to the human world and cultivated many evil corpses to descend into the world. The goal was to create a bloody storm in the human world and make the evil corpse stronger and stronger." There was such a thing? The good corpse of God Master of 10 Directions was not surprised. Su Fang waved his hand and grabbed, pulling out the descents sealed in the Tao Palace. Su Fang returned to the Pangang universe. Although he successfully defeated the descents, he could not kill them because he was afraid of breaking the vases. Once he killed the descents, any life that was born in the Pangang universe would perish as long as they could not transcend. Su Fang had no choice but to seal the descents in the Tao Palace. The good corpse of God Master of 10 Directions understood the origin of the descents from Su Fang. His eyes flashed as he sized up the descents for a while. He nodded and said, "It is indeed an evil consciousness cultivated by the evil corpse." Then, he used a thought to envelop the descents. A peaceful and gentle aura and will permeated into the descent's body. 10 breaths of time. The evil energy of death and violence that had descended was melted away by the aura and will of the good corpse of God Lord of 10 Directions, turning into a projection of his consciousness. Next, the good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions opened his mouth and inhaled, directly sucking descended into his body. I was originally one with that evil corpse. Now that I have purified and fused with this will, the life forms within your low-level universe will no longer be bound to descended. There is nothing to worry about. Su Fang immediately felt relieved. He cupped his fists at the 10 Directions Divine Master's good corpse and said, "Thank you, Senior." The Divine Master of 10 Directions waved his hand and said, "No wonder I'm getting weaker and weaker. The evil corpse and I are irreconcilable enemies. The evil corpse is getting stronger and stronger because of the slaughter, and I'm getting weaker and weaker because the humans I'm protecting are getting weaker and weaker. My days are numbered as well." Su Fang then asked confusedly, "Senior, you said that this time, the evil corpses led the non-humankind army to attack the humankind to exterminate the humankind and use it to prove their Tao and become immortal. Could it be that the evil corpse hasn't become undying? The evil corpse is my evil incarnation. The humankind killed my executors, so I have a deep grudge against them. If the humankind isn't exterminated, how can the evil corpse become immortal? However, because of the cultivation of the Jiuxuan Everlasting Sutra, the evil corpse is more powerful than the Daozu, even though he is still a Daozu." "I see. I didn't expect the Jiuxuan Everlasting Sutra to be so powerful." Su Fang was shocked. At the same time, he understood. If the evil corpse of God Lord 10 Directions had become immortal, how could he have been sealed by the Daozu so easily? The Divine Master of 10 Directions gazed at Su Fang and sighed. "I didn't expect you to obtain the heaven-bestowed sutra from that problematic Jiuxuan Everlasting Sutra. Moreover, you also obtained my Master of 10 Directions seal that I left in the Blood Valley. It seems that this is the will of the heavens. However, this won't change anything. If the will of the heavens wants to exterminate the humankind, no one can stop it. When the humankind is exterminated, I will die. Senior, the humankind might not be exterminated, and you might not die. Besides, other than you, there might be other experts who can become immortal. Su Fang told the Divine Master of 10 Directions about how the evil corpse of God Lord 10 Directions had been sealed by the Daozu and how the Daozu had taken that step. There's such a thing? The good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions was both shocked and astonished. After pondering for a while, he suddenly understood. The Daozu of Shixian turned himself into an immortal and cultivated again for 9 lifetimes. This is a different path to immortality. It seems that I have underestimated the humankind and the Daozu of Shixian. Then, he shook his head and said, however, the path of immortality of the Daozu of Shixian might not work. Even if it does, it will be filled with difficulties and dangers. With the resources of the humankind, it is impossible to cultivate an immortal. Moreover, there is no time. By the time he becomes immortal, the humankind will have been exterminated. He didn't expect the good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions to be so pessimistic. This made Su Fang's heart sink. After coming to the ruins of God, he finally understood the truth of the matter, but he was powerless to change anything. This made Su Fang feel despair. Little did he know the good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions suddenly said, if nothing unexpected happens, the humankind will definitely be exterminated by the evil corpse. However, there seemed to be a chance. Su Fang stared at the good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions with wide eyes. However, when the heavenly Tao closes a door, it will always leave a crack. Before I saw you, I thought that the humankind was destined to be exterminated. However, after seeing you, I am almost certain that you are the crack the heavenly Tao left for the humankind. In other words, you are the last hope of the humankind. The good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions' words shocked and stunned Su Fang. Do you still remember the reason why the experts of the humankind are hunting me down? Aside from the evil corpse's wanton slaughter and infuriating the experts of the humankind, it's also because the experts of the humankind want to steal one of Senior's treasures. Could it be that the hope that Senior spoke of is that treasure? You are indeed intelligent. You guessed it right away. It is also because of this treasure that I have been hiding in the divine palace of the Reizeigu people for so many years. The good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions smiled warmly. He reached out with his hand and a black token appeared in his hand. The token was only the size of a palm. On one side there was a divine pattern of lightning. On the other side, there was a portrait of an expert of the Reizeigu people. The token exuded a terrifying lightning-attributed divine might. It contained the shocking ancient aura of the heavenly Tao's lightning punishment. Su Fang didn't need to guess. He could tell that the token came from the Reizeigu people. However, the token didn't seem to be an offensive or defensive xianbao. It was more like a token used to pass through the profound gate. Su Fang had thought that it was some kind of primordial heavenly treasure. He didn't expect it to be a token. He was somewhat disappointed. The good corpse of God Lord 10 Directions saw through Su Fang's thoughts. He smiled and said, "Are you disappointed? Although this treasure isn't a primordial heavenly treasure, it is 10 times, no, 100 times more valuable than a primordial heavenly treasure to the humankind." Su Fang was shocked. What kind of treasure could be more valuable than a primordial heavenly treasure? God Lord 10 Directions stared at the black token. His eyes flickered with luster. This token is called the Sky-Reaching Lightning Pool Token. Its name has the word sky-reaching in it. It really does have the ability to reach the heavens. Ability to reach the heavens? Su Fang didn't understand what was going on. Back then, I accidentally entered the ruins of God left behind by the Reizeigu people. I found this sky-reaching lightning pool token in this temple. At the same time, I learned about the use of this treasure from some of the ruins left behind. When the Reizeigu people were at their peak, they dominated tens of thousands of races. Among them, there were several immortal realm experts and countless Daozu and Dao Saint. They were incomparably powerful. The Reizeigu people wanted their people to pass on their legacy for eternity. Therefore, the immortal realm experts of the Reizeigu people carried out a shocking plan. They joined forces and created a world in the ethereal heavenly Dao. It was called the original realm of Luais. Their original plan was to move all the people of the Reizeigu people to the original realm of Luais. This way, even the most ordinary people would be able to obtain immortality, just like the immortal realm expert. Su Fang was stunned when he heard this. The goal of a cultivator was to obtain the truth of the great Tao and become an immortal realm existence that existed alongside the heavenly Tao. The immortal realm experts of the Reizeigu people had created a world in the heavenly Tao so that all the people of the Reizeigu people could become immortal. What kind of crazy idea was this? What kind of amazing power did it require? After being stunned for a while, Su Fang said, "The Reizeigu people must have failed in the end, right, Senior?" God Master of 10 Directions said in surprise, "How do you know? If the Reizeigu people had succeeded, all the people of the Reizeigu people would have obtained immortality. As time passed, many powerful experts would have been born. How powerful would the Reizeigu people have become? Now that the Reizeigu people have disappeared in the river of history, it is natural that they failed." You are only half right. The Reizeigu people's experts really did create such a world. However, such a heaven-defying action was punished by the heavens, which led to their extinction. Su Fang's heart trembled. Heavenly punishment? The Reizeigu people perished because they were punished by the heavens? That's right. I know from some of the godly texts left behind in the godly palace that the Reizeigu people's immortal realm experts were celebrating after they successfully created the Reizeigu original realm. Just as they were preparing to migrate, a terrifying heavenly punishment descended. According to the description of the godly texts left behind by the Reizeigu people, when the Reizeigu original realm was successfully created, an intangible heavenly punishment began to descend on every cultivator of the Reizeigu people. First, it was the immortal realm experts, then the Daozu, Dao Saints, and finally the ordinary people. They were all killed by the heavenly punishment one by one. In the end, the entire race was annihilated. God Master of 10 Directions words made Su Fang's Dao heart tremble. The powerful Reizeigu people were still so weak and insignificant in front of the heavenly Tao. They were easily wiped out. Su Fang asked in confusion, "Don't immortal realm experts coexist with the heavenly Tao and live forever?" God Master of 10 Directions said majestically, "Coexisting with the heavenly Tao and living forever means that they have endless life. However, when they are punished by the heavenly Tao, all their abilities will be stripped away and wiped out." Senior, are you planning to let me enter the Reizeigu original realm, and even move the human race into the Reizeigu original realm by taking out this sky-reaching Thunder Lake token? Yes, that is my intention. Chapter 3158. God Master of 10 Directions chuckled. If it would affect you and the human race, why would I dare to go against the Thunder Lake original realm? Su Fang smiled in embarrassment. Did something happen to the Thunder Lake original realm after the heavenly punishment? That's right. When the heavenly punishment descended, the Reizeigu people's immortal realm experts realized their heaven-defying actions and brought about the extinction of the Reizeigu people. However, they couldn't stop the heavenly punishment and could only watch as the Reizeigu people were destroyed. However, the Thunder Lake original realm was the blood and sweat of the Reizeigu people's immortal realm expert. Even if they died, they didn't want their life's work to go to waste. Therefore, 9 Reizeigu people's immortal realm experts used everything they had to fuse with the Thunder Lake original realm and resist the heavenly punishment. Only then did the Thunder Lake original realm survive. Since the Thunder Lake original realm survived the heavenly punishment, it meant that it was qualified to exist and was recognized by the heavenly Tao. Now that you've entered the Thunder Lake original realm, you don't have to worry about the heavenly punishment. Unfortunately, all the Reizeigu people's bloodline and karma were wiped out by the heavenly punishment. They don't have the fortune to enjoy the Thunder Lake original realm. God Master of Ten Directions' words made Su Fang's eyes light up. Don't be happy too early. God Master of Ten Directions poured cold water on Su Fang without hesitation. Su Fang calmed down immediately. Are there any restrictions on entering the Thunder Lake original realm? Of course. I learned from the godly text left in the godly palace that the immortal realm experts had a premonition before the heavenly punishment descended. Moreover, the heavenly punishment didn't wipe out all the Reizeigu people at once. It took a long time. Therefore, the godly palace has detailed records of the Thunder Lake original realm. Although the Thunder Lake original realm withstood the heavenly punishment and gained the right to exist in the ethereal heavenly Tao, some of its heaven-defying abilities were wiped out. The Reizeigu people's original plan was that any life form that entered the Thunder Lake original realm would gain eternal life. It was this ability that violated the heavenly Tao and attracted the heavenly punishment. Therefore, the heavenly punishment directly wiped out this ability. Su Fang understood that the Thunder Lake original realm was just an ethereal place of refuge. It wasn't as heaven-defying as the Reizeigu people's original plan. However, with the Thunder Lake original realm, the human race would have a place. At least, they didn't have to worry about foreign invasions. As long as they could control the Loai's original realm, it would mean that the human race would have a holy land that would not be invaded. When the human race became truly powerful, they would have the right to stand proudly among the chaos races. Such a treasure, even with its flaws, was still incomparably heaven-defying. It was no wonder that the Ten Directions Divine Lord had said that this treasure was more powerful than a primordial heavenly treasure. Who knew? What God Lord Ten Directions said next sent chills down Su Fang's spine. It's not that simple. Before the 9 immortal Reizeigu people were killed by the heavenly punishment, they merged with the Thunder Lake original realm to resist the heavenly punishment. That's why the Thunder Lake original realm was preserved. Their goal was to prevent the cultivation civilization of the Reizeigu people from completely disappearing in the annals of history. The Reizeigu people's experts naturally didn't want to leave the Thunder Lake original realm to the weaker races. That would be a humiliation to the Reizeigu people. Therefore, to enter the Thunder Lake original realm and control it, you have to go through many tests left behind by the 9 immortal experts. How powerful were the Reizeigu people back then? How talented were the Reizeigu people's cultivators? The tests left behind by the immortal experts were designed with the Reizeigu people's top geniuses as the standard. With my talent, haha, if my body isn't destroyed, the ratio of success and failure is 50-50. Su Fang was deflated when he heard that. What kind of peerless figure was the God Lord of 10 Directions? Su Fang believed that his talent was extraordinary. Coupled with his various extraordinary abilities and treasures, no one in the entire human race could compare to him. However, compared to the God Lord of 10 Directions, Su Fang felt inferior. Just as the God Lord of 10 Directions had said, his talent and abilities were at most 1/10 of the God Lord of 10 Directions. Even the God Lord of 10 Directions only had a 50-50 chance of passing the tests, let alone Su Fang. According to the God Lord of 10 Directions description, Su Fang estimated that he had a 50% chance of passing the Thunder Lake original realms test. Difficult. It was simply too difficult. The difficulty was beyond Su Fang's imagination. Also, the God Lord of 10 Directions continued. Also? Su Fang felt his scalp go numb. The good corpse of the God Lord of 10 Directions continued. The Thunder Lake original realm has a total of 9 levels of heaven, or 9 tests. The difficulty levels range from easy to difficult. Every 1,000,000 years, one can enter a level of heaven to take the test. Once you start, you cannot stop. Every 1,000,000 years, you will be automatically transported to the Thunder Lake Original Realm. If you fail, you will be trapped in the Thunder Lake Original Realm forever until the end of your life. In other words, every 1,000,000 years, you must complete a level of heaven's test. Moreover, you only have one chance at each level of heaven. Failure means death. Su Fang was shocked. It seemed that he had underestimated the difficulty and danger of the test. The God Lord of 10 Directions sighed. It is indeed very difficult. Back then, I tried to persuade the upper echelons of the human race to help me become an immortal. Only then would I have the confidence to pass the tests and take control of the Thunder Lake Original Realm. However, not only did the upper echelons of the human race not believe that I could pass the tests, they even wanted to snatch the Supreme Thunder Lake token. This is also the main reason why the human race experts are madly pursuing me. Then, the God Lord of 10 Directions stared at Su Fang and said word by word, "My successor, this is the only chance for the human race. Are you willing to open up a refuge for the human race and continue the human race's future?" Su Fang fell into a state of hesitation. Hesitation and conflict. Of course, he did not want to see the human race destroyed, so he tried to turn the tide. However, passing the tests of the Thunder Lake Original Realm was too difficult. Once he failed, the consequences would be severe. How could he not be conflicted? Of course, I know that you have such concerns. Back then, even I hesitated many times and did not dare to enter the Thunder Lake Original Realm rashly, let alone you. The God Lord of 10 Directions understood Su Fang very well. Then, he changed the topic. However, the greater the danger, the greater the opportunity. The Thunder Lake Original Realm will be the only shortcut for you to become an immortal. If you can pass the 9 tests and take control of the Thunder Lake Original Realm, you will become an immortal. At the same time, you will become the future master of the human race. Immortal? Shortcut? Su Fang was stunned. His eyes started to brighten. The Immortal Realm experts of the Reizeigu people set up the tests to choose the best successor so that the Thunder Lake Original Realm can be passed on. They are not deliberately making things difficult for the testees. Therefore, the test of each heaven is set up with deep meaning. When you pass the test, you can also obtain supreme fortune and the unlimited resources that the Reizeigu people have stored in the Thunder Lake Original Realm. Among those resources, there is even the legendary Heaven Dao fruit. Putting everything else aside, you are now in the realm of cultivating the 3 corpses. If you have the firm will and belief to fight for the human race, you can quickly cultivate the 3 corpses into the 3 corpses and become a supreme Daozu. The God Lord of 10 Directions' words were full of temptation. Su Fang fell into deep thought. About half an hour later, rumble! There was a series of earth-shattering noises. The space trembled violently. Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. The alien army has begun to attack the Thunder Lake Palace. Don't worry. With me here, those alien experts will not be able to break into the palace in a short time. Think carefully. I will wait for your final decision. After a long time. Do I have any other choice? Su Fang looked at the God Lord of 10 Directions with a bitter smile. There are more than 100,000 alien cultivators outside. If I don't enter the Thunder Lake Original Realm, how will I fight my way out of their encirclement? Besides, now that the non-humankind has invaded the human world, in another 10 million years, the evil corpses of the 10 God Masters will break the seal, and the human race will be doomed. The Thunder Lake Original Realm is the only chance for the human race. Right now, I am the only human cultivator who has the slightest chance of passing the test of the Thunder Lake Original Realm and winning a place of refuge for the human race. If I don't go, who will? At this point, Su Fang's eyes became resolute, and his Dao heart and will became incomparably resolute. I can also take my family and friends and flee the Joshuan divine realm. Like the 5 divine races of the Middle Mystery, I can join the powerful alien races and become their slave. But what's the point of living like this for the rest of my life? If I do that, it will also go against my conscience. From then on, it will be difficult for me to make any progress in my cultivation, let alone cultivate 3 bodies, sever 3 corpses, and become immortal. Senior is right. A cultivator should strive for every moment. With a courageous heart, we should surmount all difficulties and obstacles and cut down the thorns on our path. We should live to our heart's content and dare to love and hate. Although there is only a 1% chance, there is still a chance. Even if there is no hope, I will still fight for a chance. If I fail, I will die. But even if I die, I, Su Fong, will die on the path to the peak. I will not drag out an ignoble existence on the path of retreat and escape. Su Fong let out a clanging sound, and a heroic and resolute aura of not turning back arose spontaneously at this moment. At the same time, Su Fong felt the fruit of holding and good karma hidden in his body undergo a wondrous change. They were restless, like ripe melons about to fall off. His entire body felt like it was being peeled off and split apart. It was the obsession and good karma of saving the human race that caused the fruit of holding and good karma to sprout in Su Fong's body, and he was on the verge of cultivating the Ji corpse and the good corpse. The divine lord of 10 directions and the good corpse looked at Su Fong and was moved. At this moment, he seemed to see his past self, and couldn't help but inwardly sigh, perhaps the wish that I couldn't fulfill will be fulfilled in his hands. Very good. The divine lord of 10 directions gave a knowing smile. Since you've made your decision, hurry and recover. Once you've recovered to your peak state, I will help you open the Thunder Marsh origin realm. What about the experts of the alien races outside? With me here, they won't be able to cause much trouble. Leave everything to me. Don't forget that I was the divine lord of 10 directions, whose might once shook Joshuan. Chapter 3159. The foreign race's attacks became even more ferocious, and the space inside the temple began to shatter amidst the violent turbulence. Su Fong also knew that time was of the essence. He hurriedly grabbed the Fuyao cave abode, entered the space inside, and sat down cross-legged in the passage of time array. After inspecting his body both inside and outside, he found that the old Tensei people's attack, when he entered the space inside the temple, had caused serious injuries. The flesh and organs on Su Fong's back were constantly being drained away by the terrifying power of time, and it was still spreading to all parts of his body. Fortunately, Su Fong had the primordial aura that could dissolve any power. Otherwise, even if he did not die, his vitality would be greatly damaged. With a single thought, inside the Taoist palace, 10 king-grade pills and some other spiritual items appeared. Immediately after, he activated the heaven-piercing blood king vines. One by one, the blood vines wrapped around the pills and spiritual items and wildly devoured them, then turned them into pure medicinal power and seeped into Su Fong's flesh and blood. At the same time, Su Fong constantly activated the primordial aura to dissolve the power of time that had invaded his body. Before Su Fong entered the temple, he had yet to recover the life he had expended. Coupled with the powerful attack from the old Tensei people, it made things worse for him. I have to quickly recover my life force and enter the Luai's original realm in peak condition. The test of the Luai's original realm was extremely difficult, and failure was not allowed. Su Fong now had no way back, and could only go on regardless of his own safety. If he succeeded, he would use this shortcut to reach the peak in one fell swoop, and the crisis for the entire human race would be completely resolved. If he failed, whether it was Su Fong or the human race, they would all be doomed eternally. Therefore, Su Fong had to go all out. Before entering the Luai's original realm, he had to adjust himself to peak condition at all costs. Only then would he have a chance to pass the test. He grabbed Xian Zheng's body from the Taoist palace. Xianjing, although you are a despicable person who only knows how to fight for power and profit, your cultivation is not bad. You can let me cultivate and help me recover quickly. This can be considered as your contribution to the human race. Su Fang revealed a ferocious smile. More than a dozen blood vines flashed out of his body and pierced directly into Xianjing's body. Sizzle Xianjing's cultivation base, life force, and the awe-inspiring aura that he had cultivated all his life were all channeled into Su Fang's body through the heaven-piercing Blood King vine. Su Fang's fleshly body gradually began to burn with astonishing flames of life. Then, Su Fang was surprised to find that as he continued to integrate with Xianjing's noble spirit, his good karma seemed to be nourished and began to tremble in his body, ready to burst out. This caused the kindness in Su Fang's Tao heart to become even more tenacious and powerful. His entire body began to exude an aura of peace and kindness that was rather similar to the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. Moreover, as the good corpse was about to be cultivated, Su Fang noticed that the bottleneck of cultivation was beginning to loosen, and his cultivation was beginning to improve. The great vital energy contains the heaven and earth's righteous and vast spiritual will. This is also a kind of good that can nourish my good karma. In this way, I'm not far from cultivating a good corpse. Su Fang was very happy. According to the Divine Lord of 10 Directions, once he cultivated the 3 corpses, not only would his cultivation base increase, his strength and abilities would also undergo a metamorphosis. He did not expect that Xianjing would bring him such great benefit. How could Su Fang not be pleasantly surprised? Su Fang then activated his Xian Yang Dharma body and used the Great Yang Reversal Art to accelerate the recovery of the life force that he had consumed. With so many methods, Su Fang's recovery speed was truly astonishing. Just as Su Fang was doing his best to recover in Fuyao's cavern abode, more than 100,000 foreign race cultivators were madly attacking the gate of the temple. The foreign race experts used all kinds of methods, divine powers, Xianbao, runes, formations, and so on. They attacked the gate of the temple like a tidal wave, causing the entire temple to tremble and the barrier around the gate to shatter continuously. In the middle of the foreign race army, a white jade pavilion floated in the air several dozen feet high. From time to time, thunderbolts would shoot out from the thunderclouds in the sky and bombard the pavilion, but the pavilion released the power of time to quickly reduce them to nothingness. Inside the pavilion, the young commandery prince of the Tensei people was reclining on the throne with more than a dozen experts standing behind him. In front of him, more than 100 young women from the human race and the demonic snake clan were dancing to the sound of nature. Each of these women was extremely beautiful and wore revealing clothes. As they danced, their alluring buttocks were faintly discernible. It was very tempting. The young commandery prince of the Tensei people was drowsy and looked in the direction of the temple from time to time. A Tensei people expert said, "Young commandery prince, don't be anxious. The heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan has escaped into the Reizeigu people's temple. Even if it obtained the inheritance of the Reizeigu people, it won't be able to escape from the young commandery prince." The young commandery prince of the Tensei people shook his head and said, "I'm not afraid that the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan obtained the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. As far as I know, the inheritance of the Reizeigu people is not in the temple. What I'm worried about is that if the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan goes to that place, all my efforts will be in vain. Since the young commandery prince is so worried, why don't we mobilize the Daozu experts outside the ruins of God and attack the temple in one fell swoop? That's not right. If the Daozu experts attack, the entire temple will collapse and everything will be destroyed." Another Tensei people expert suddenly said, "Young commandery prince, the life jade of the human race cultivator, Xianjing, and the cultivators under him have all shattered. I'm afraid that they have all met with misfortune." The young commandery prince of the Tensei people was surprised at first. Then, he snorted and said, The human race is indeed a low-level race. They are all a bunch of useless trash. At this moment, rumble! A wave of thunder exploded from the gate of the temple. From the thunderclouds in the sky above the temple, thunderbolts continuously descended and landed among the foreign race army. The foreign race cultivators who were within 1,000 feet of the gate of the temple were instantly devoured by the thunderbolts and turned into ashes. The foreign race army behind them was also killed or severely injured by the thunder that descended from the sky. In the square behind them, all the statues came to life and attacked the foreign race army fiercely. The foreign race army was caught off guard and was instantly thrown into chaos. Someone is actually controlling the restriction on the temple. Could it be that the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan has already taken control of the temple? The young commandery prince of the Tensei people's expression changed slightly. In a fit of rage, a divine aura burst out from his body and engulfed the dancing women of the human race and the demonic snake clan. When the divine aura dissipated, the terrifying power of time directly took away half of the lives of the women. All of them turned into ugly old women. The young commandery prince of the Tensei people shouted in a low voice, "We can't care about that anymore. Let all the Daozu experts outside in, break the barrier, and attack the temple." Among the foreign race army attacking the temple, a peak divine saint expert of the three-eyed black demon race stared at the gate of the temple. All three of his eyes flashed with vigor. That's right. The person that the divine Lord of 10 Directions is looking for is indeed in the temple. As long as we capture him, the divine Lord of 10 Directions will quickly break the seal. Inside Fuyao's cavern, Su Fang had spent nearly 5,000 years in the time formation. Xianzheng was indeed a half-step Daozu, and an extremely powerful one at that. After being completely devoured by Su Fang, along with a large number of pills and spiritual items, Su Fang's injuries were completely healed and even improved. It's time to enter the Luai's original realm. Su Fang was hale and hearty. His heart was filled with nervousness and anticipation as he flew out of Fuyao's cavern. Su Fang's eyes narrowed when he saw the Divine Lord of 10 Directions' good corpse. At this moment, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions had completely fused with the space inside the temple. It was as if he was the ruler of the temple. However, Su Fang discovered that the Divine Lord of 10 Directions' aura had clearly become much weaker. Clearly, controlling the temple's restrictions to stop the foreign race army had consumed a lot of his energy once again. Although the Divine Lord of 10 Directions was powerful, he was still unable to withstand the attacks of more than 100,000 foreign race soldiers, even if he controlled the temple's restrictions. Moreover, what Su Fang did not know was that it was not just the foreign race cultivators who were attacking the temple. The Daozu experts had also joined in. That was why the Divine Lord of 10 Directions had suffered such heavy losses. The speed of your recovery is faster than I expected. Fortunately, there is still time. The good corpse of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions smiled and transmitted a message to Su Fang. This is some of the insights I have gained from cultivating the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra. Keep it. You can use it as a reference, but don't try to comprehend or copy my experience. After all, your path of cultivation is different from mine. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions took out a jade slip and flew it to Su Fang. Su Fang put away the jade slip and carefully sucked it into the Dao Palace. Time is of the essence. Let's begin. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions nodded. Then, he handed the sky-piercing lightning pool token to Su Fang. Keep the sky-piercing lightning pool token well. Without it, even an undying existence will die in the Luai's original realm. Su Fang grabbed the sky-piercing lightning pool token and suddenly asked, "Senior, if the temple is breached by the foreign race and I can enter the Luai's original realm, what will you do then?" "Haha, you don't need to worry. My successor, take care of yourself. Everything about the human race, your fate, and your future, it all depends on you." The Divine Lord of 10 Directions smiled brilliantly. His eyes were filled with determination. Su Fang could see the determination to die in his eyes. His heart trembled. "Senior, you rumble?" The space inside the temple began to collapse. All the energy within the space, the thunderclouds above the temple, and the world of thoughts all gathered above the island where Su Fang and the Divine Lord of 10 Directions were. For a moment, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A giant lightning vortex began to form. The bottom of the vortex was extremely deep. It gave Su Fang the feeling that it led directly to the ethereal heavenly Tao. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions' life, cultivation, and soul began to burn furiously. His aura was draining away at an astonishing speed. His body also began to fade into nothingness. He looked at Su Fang, his eyes imploring him. "I didn't tell you before. To open the Luai's original realm, a Daozu powerhouse must fuse with the temple, and everything of the initiator. Only then can the sky-piercing gate open to the Luai's original realm." Chapter 3160. Seeing Su Fang's expression, the 10 Directions' Divine Lord smiled embarrassedly. "Among the foreign race cultivators outside, some of them have karma with my evil corp. Clearly, they were ordered by my evil corpse to capture me. If I was swallowed by the evil corpse, it would have easily broken the seal. Therefore, I had no choice but to die. Moreover, I am the good corpse of the 10 Directions' Divine Lord. I was born to protect the human race. I thought that the human race was destined to be destroyed by the other me, and I would die of depression in the end. Now I have a successor, and I am dying for the sake of the human race. What regrets do I have in death? In the end, my successor, although I have died, it is actually a kind of release. Although you are still alive, you have to shoulder the fate of the human race. My successor, take care. Don't disappoint me." The 10 Directions' Divine Lord smiled and nodded at Su Fang. His figure quickly turned blurry and finally turned into nothingness. "Senior, have a safe journey." Su Fang knelt down and bowed to the 10 Directions' Divine Lord. His heart was filled with great sorrow. How similar was this scene to how Shi Xian Daozu sealed the 10 Directions' Divine Lord's evil corpse with his own body. At this moment, the entire space inside the palace had completely collapsed. Only the small island Su Fang was on was left. The thunder vortex in the sky stabilized and condensed into an ancient gate. Behind the gate was the path to the ethereal heavenly Tao. "I am about to go to the Thunder Lake original realm. I can't appear as a human cultivator. Otherwise, if the foreign race experts see me, it will bring me endless trouble in the future." Su Fang hurriedly activated the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. His entire body was covered in blood patterns. His hair turned blood-red and his aura became evil. He no longer had the appearance and aura of a human cultivator. Buzz, the sky-piercing Thunder Lake token in Su Fang's hand vibrated on its own without him activating it. It emitted shocking lightning and formed a protective divine aura around him. Immediately after, a force that Su Fang could not resist was released from the gate. It slowly attracted him to the gate. Following the destruction of the Divine Palace, the alien army began to retreat. Some alien cultivators were caught in the shockwaves and were turned into dust on the spot. Many Tensei people's powerhouses protected the Tensei people's young prince as they retreated far away from the place where the temple was destroyed. Seeing the heavenly gate and Su Fang flying towards it, the young prince of the Tensei people let out a thunderous roar. "Stop him! We can't let him enter that gate!" Whoosh! Whoosh! One of the Tensei people, Daozu, and 2 experts at the peak of the Tao Saint stage teleported out and appeared outside the heavenly gate in an instant. They then used their god aura and Xian Bao. The Daozu attacked Su Fang while the other 2 attacked the heaven-connecting gate. Little did they know it would have been better if they hadn't attacked. The attacks of the 3 venerables were immediately countered by the heavenly gate. An immortal aura surged out of the gate and struck the two Tao saints who were attacking the heaven-connecting gate. The counterattack of the gate to heaven was comparable to the full-strength attack of an immortal realm expert. The two Tao saints of the cosmic race, whose strength was comparable to that of an ordinary Tao ancestor of the human race, were as insignificant as ants under such a terrifying attack. They were instantly blown to smithereens and only had time to let out a miserable cry. The other Daozu, who was attacking Su Fang, was struck by the counterattack of the lightning. He was so frightened that he hurriedly used his god aura of time to stop the lightning for a moment. Then, he teleported away. However, he was still a little too slow. He was struck by the aftershock of the lightning, and half of his body was destroyed by the lightning element. Fortunately, Daozu's life force was extremely strong, so he didn't die. Many experts of the foreign races could only watch as Su Fang flew towards the heaven-connecting gate. No one could stop him. Damn it! The young prince of the Tensei people gritted his teeth. One of the Tensei people tried to persuade him. Young prince, the Reizeigu people have been dead for so many years. What treasures could they have left behind? It's not worth it for you to be angry over a heaven-piercing blood king vine. Young prince, many experts of the human race have already died in this trial. If you return to the Tensei people, I'm afraid, the young prince of the Tensei people shouted, all of you, shut up. Do you really think that I came to the ruins of God to train? Young prince, do you have other intentions? Of course. I have long known the secret of the Reizeigu people's disappearance. Not only did the Reizeigu people leave behind countless treasures, but they also left behind a heaven-defying treasure like the heaven-connecting Tao fruit. They also left behind a peerless treasure that could greatly increase the strength of our race. If we could obtain the inheritance of the Reizeigu people, so what if we lost a few Daozu? However, it was taken away by a heaven-piercing blood king vine. How can I not be angry? The young prince of the Tensei people's words shocked all the Tensei people. Looking at the Su Fang who was about to disappear into the heaven-connecting door, the young prince of the Tensei people's eyes flashed with madness. He said decisively, "Reverse time for me at all costs. I want to kill that heaven-piercing blood king vine and enter the heaven-connecting door in his place." Many Tensei people's experts were shocked. "Hurry up and do it," the young prince of the Tensei people shouted at a Daozu of the Tensei people. This time, two Daozu of the Tensei people came to the ruins of God. Just now, one of them was injured. The remaining one was even stronger than the injured one. The Daozu didn't dare to disobey the young prince's order. He gritted his teeth and took out an ancient bronze bell. "I will try using the primordial heavenly treasure. However, I will need everyone's help." The ancient bell was filled with mysterious tadpole-like divine inscriptions. Judging from its aura, it was obvious that it was a primordial heavenly treasure. Dozens of Tensei people, Daozu, and Tao saints from other races released their auras together. They used the Tensei people's restrictive spell to penetrate the body of the Daozu. Then, the Daozu condensed millions of thoughts and integrated them into the ancient bell. With a wave of his hand, the ancient bell flew to the small island. Boom! The ancient bell let out a loud rumble. Streams of the power of time rolled out, turning into layers of ripples. Wherever the ripples swept, time began to reverse. Su Fang's body couldn't be controlled. He kept retreating until he reached the small island. He returned to the state before the heaven-connecting lightning lake was activated. "Young prince, hurry up. I can't hold on for much longer." The aura of the Daozu of the Tensei people quickly weakened. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to hold on for more than a few breaths. "Despicable heaven-piercing blood king vine. How dare you snatch my treasure and creation? Die." The young prince of the Tensei people took a step forward and instantly teleported to Su Fang's side. He was very confident in his own strength. Moreover, he had a shocking record of killing a peak Tao saint. Why would he care about Su Fang? "You are the one who is courting death. Su Fang's heart surged with ruthlessness and killing intent. He couldn't care less about the young prince of the Tensei people's identity. He had to kill him regardless of the consequences. Who knew the young prince of the Tensei people and Su Fang were about to attack and kill each other. Puff, the Daozu of the Tensei people, who activated the ancient bronze bell to reverse time, could no longer hold on under the backlash of the heaven-connecting gate. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The ancient bronze bell also let out a roar and flew back into his body. Dozens of foreign race experts also spat out mouthfuls of blood. Every one of them was seriously injured. The heaven-connecting lightning lake suddenly let out a buzzing sound and released a shocking divine power. It enveloped Su Fang and the young prince of the Tensei people. Under the divine power of the heaven-connecting lightning lake, Su Fang and the young prince of the Tensei people couldn't move at all. They could only look at each other. Their eyes were full of killing intent, but neither of them could attack. They couldn't even gather their thoughts. Whoosh! Under the suction force released by the heaven-connecting gate, Su Fang and the young prince of the Tensei people flew toward the heaven-connecting gate at the same time. This time, the Tensei people couldn't stop them even if they wanted to. Under everyone's gaze, the two of them were sucked into the heaven-connecting gate and disappeared without a trace. The heaven-connecting gate also quickly collapsed and turned into flashing lightning. Finally, the lightning that filled the sky gradually disappeared, and everything calmed down. The area where the temple was and its surroundings had been completely turned into ruins. The palace, the square, and countless thought worlds had all collapsed and disappeared. The peak Tao saint from the three-eyed black demon race looked at the place where the heavenly door had disappeared and felt a wave of disappointment. The person that my lord wants to capture has either died or entered the space-time behind the heavenly door with the heaven-piercing blood king vine. It is highly likely that it is the former. There is no point in staying here any longer. I should return to the human world and report to my lord. Not long after, the 12 races that invaded the human world all left the divine ruins. I didn't expect that the heaven-connecting blood king vine to be so bold and powerful. He didn't even take the young prince of the Tensei people seriously. It is a pity that he won't be able to escape from Zhou Nua this time. Let's go. The middle-aged woman from the Heavenly Tree clan sighed in disappointment and left the divine ruins with the other cultivators of the Heavenly Tree clan. Other than the cultivators of the Tensei people, and some human experts from the 5 divine clans, the other races all returned in disappointment. 2 Tao ancestors from the 5 god clans stood with their hands clasped behind their backs outside the encirclement of the Cosmos clan expert. They were the 2 Daozu experts from the Hu people and the Yi clan. These 2 top experts of the human race in the past both had worried looks on their faces. Previously, the Thunder Pool crystal was taken away by a Hu people cultivator, and even Xian Jing died. The young prince would definitely pursue the matter. None of the 5 divine clans would have a good ending. How could they not be worried? I hope that the young prince will be able to obtain the treasures of the Reizeigu people as well as that supreme treasure. Otherwise, when he returns to the clan, the young prince will not be able to escape punishment. We will also be severely punished according to the clan rules. What if the young prince doesn't return? The injured Daozu expert from the Tensei people looked worriedly at the place where the heavenly door disappeared. My lord, you worry too much. Do you know how powerful the young prince is? Although the heaven-connecting blood king vine is extraordinary, how can it be a match for the young prince? The young prince is the top genius of our clan. He has even been internally selected as one of the candidates for the position of young lord by the higher-ups of our clan. Even the young prince's status in the clan has risen because of him. That heaven-connecting blood king vine can only be killed by the young prince. How can it be a threat to the young prince? The young prince will definitely return with a bountiful harvest this time. If the treasures of the Reizeigu people are really there, the young prince will definitely be selected as the young lord based on this great merit. When that time comes, not only will we not be punished, we will also be heavily rewarded. Chapter 3161. Su Fang was sucked into the heaven-reaching door. He felt as if his entire body had turned into nothingness. He had completely lost his weight and control of his body. He could only go with the flow. He did not know how long he had been floating in the endless darkness. It was as if he had experienced countless reincarnations, but it also felt like a short moment. Whoosh! His body suddenly had weight, and his surroundings were no longer dark. He had arrived on a floating stone platform. The stone platform looked like it was only 1,000 feet wide, but it was actually an independent spacetime. Due to the folding of space, Su Fang had the illusion that it was not big. Around the stone platform, lightning chains intertwined to form a powerful barrier that sealed Su Fang in an independent spacetime. This is the Luai's original realm? Su Fang's divine light scanned his surroundings, but he could not find any clues. This should not be the Luai's original realm. It should be an independent space, specially used for tests. I wonder what the first test will be. The young commandery prince of the Tensei people, Zhou Nuo, who had entered with Su Fang, was not in the same independent spacetime as Su Fang. Following that, Su Fang sensed his body both inside and outside. He discovered that his physical body was actually nothingness. The Xian Bao in the Dao Palace and his subordinates could not sense their existence. Following that, Su Fang's thoughts moved, and a Hongmeng heavenly wheel appeared around him. He did not expect to be able to use a remarkable ability here. At this moment, Su Fang appeared in the independent spacetime in the form of a consciousness. This spacetime was really strange. He could use a thought to create a technique, but he could not activate the Xian Bao, let alone borrow the strength of his subordinate. Is the test of the Luai's original realm's first heaven not a test of strength? Su Fang was surprised. Since he could not walk out of the stone platform, the only thing he could do was wait quietly. About half an hour later, I am the world spirit of the first layer of the Leijia original realm. Welcome to the Leijia original realm. You are the first living beings to enter the Leijia original realm. The voice of the young commandery prince of the Tensei people came from outside the Thunderlight Fortress. My lord, is the 9 heavens test set by the Luai's original realm really as I've heard? Is it really to select a successor for the Luai's original realm? Realm Spirit's voice sounded again. That's right, that's exactly the case. Our race's supreme expert opened up the Luai's original realm in the illusory heavenly Tao and was punished by the heavens, resulting in the extermination of our race. In order to prevent the Reizeigu people from losing their heritage, they set up the 9 levels of heaven test to select the true successor to continue the Reizeigu civilization. The young commandery prince of the Tensei people said arrogantly, if that's the case, even though the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan is a high-level life form, what right does it have to participate in the test with me? I'm the Tensei people of the primal chaos race. Only I have the right to obtain the Luai's original realm. My lord, please expel the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan from the Luai's original realm. The heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan? The world spirit of the first layer of the Luai's original realm was stunned. Then, he said, any life form that possesses the heaven-piercing lightning lake token, regardless of race, is qualified to enter the Luai's original realm to take the test. As long as you pass the 9 levels of heaven test, you will become the master of the Luai's original realm. You are just a junior of the Tensei people. Even if you are a supreme race in the primal chaos race, you will still die if you fail to pass the test. The young commandery prince of the Tensei people said, the Luai's original realm will definitely belong to me, Zhou Nu. May I know what the first layer of heaven test is? That might not be the case. Between the two of you, the possibility of you passing the 9 levels of heaven test is slightly higher. However, the possibility is not very high. The world spirit said in a contemptuous tone. Su Fang's heart was calm. He had entered the Luai's original realm with the determination to die. Nothing in the outside world could affect his Tao heart. Now I will announce the rules. The rules of the first layer of heaven test are actually very simple. If you pass it, you will live. Moreover, you will also receive an unexpected reward. If you fail to pass the test, there is only one outcome: death. The duration of the test is 10,000 years. As for the content of the test and how to pass it, you will know later. Begin. The world spirit seemed to be very impatient. Moreover, he was extremely stiff and cold. He did not wait for Su Fang to clearly explain the rules and content of the test. Whoosh, a figure as tall as a mountain stepped out of the lightning chains and landed in front of Su Fang. It was a cultivator of the Reizegu people. He was more than 100 feet tall. Although he was not as shocking as the corpses of the Reizegu people that Su Fang had seen in the ruins of God, he was still extremely shocking. He was mighty, domineering, and exuded a terrifying aura of destruction. Standing there, he gave Su Fang a terrifying sense of oppression. He felt like a mortal facing a mountain. The cultivator of the Reizegu people was obviously an illusion from the Luai's original realm. Moreover, he was a real existence. However, his aura was no different from that of a normal life form. Moreover, his aura was extremely powerful. He had reached the peak of the lower level of Divine Saint. Although he was facing an opponent of the same level as him, Su Fang did not feel relaxed at all. The aura of this Reizegu people was even more shocking than that of a peak upper-level Divine Saint, or even an ordinary Daozu. Your opponent is an illusion created from the Luai's original realm based on your strength. By the way, let me tell you, the chances of you defeating him are almost zero. The two of you slowly enjoy the taste of death. Perhaps you will slowly come to like this feeling, and then there will be no more and then. The world spirit's mocking and cold voice echoed in the independent space. Whoosh, as soon as the world spirit finished speaking, the cultivator of the Reizegu people opposite Su Fang revealed a disdainful smile. He let out a roar and punched at Su Fang from a distance. It looked like an extremely ordinary punch, but it contained a powerful willpower that could destroy everything. Thunder shook the sky, and Su Fang felt as if he was facing a monstrous thunderstorm. So powerful! The Reizegu people are indeed a powerful race that dominates the chaos. He is at the same level as me, but he can unleash such a powerful force. I am definitely not this person's opponent. Su Fang sensed the power of this punch, and the light in his eyes changed instantly. There was no way out now. He could only give up everything and fight to the death with his opponent. Boom! Su Fang activated his blood fury Dharma body, and Slaughter's heart trembled and beat. It let out a sound that shook the heavens like the rumbling of a heavenly drum. The will of Slaughter and his aura condensed into a thought and merged into his right fist. He punched at the cultivator of the Reizegu people. After an earth-shattering collision, the cultivator of the Reizegu people was knocked back dozens of feet. Su Fang, on the other hand, was knocked back hundreds of miles. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air, and then fell heavily on the stone platform. Su Fang stood up shakily. He looked at his right arm, and his eyes were filled with helplessness and despair. The destructive power of thunder in the fist of the Reizegu people destroyed Su Fang's right hand. It even seeped into his right arm, corroding and destroying Su Fang's body. He looked at the Reizegu people again. Su Fang's primordial energy also damaged his right fist, but it only corroded a layer of his skin and flesh. If this continues, I will definitely lose. Su Fang's heart was filled with unwillingness. He used the future true eyes of the sky's mystery. There was no other way. He could only win this time. Once he lost, there would be no more hope. He had to use his trump card now. Boom, boom, boom. With the help of the future true eyes, Su Fang could predict the Reizegu people's every attack. However, Su Fang realized in despair that the future true eyes could not help him reverse the situation. His opponent was too strong. Even if he could predict his opponent's next attack, Su Fong could not shake him. Next, Su Fong used all his skills, but he still could not defeat the Reizeigu people's expert. Rumble! The Reizeigu people's expert opened his mouth and let out a thunderous roar. Su Fong's Tao heart trembled, and he was momentarily distracted. That powerhouse seized the opportunity and punched out a thunderstorm that resembled a stormy sea. Su Fong was swallowed up by the thunder. I failed at the first level? I can't accept this. Su Fong could clearly see his physical body turning into ashes layer by layer. His Tao palace was also beginning to collapse. Finally, with endless despair and unwillingness, his consciousness disappeared completely. Everything was dying. After an unknown period of time, Su Fong regained his consciousness. When he looked closely, he was still in that independent space. His body was intact. He had actually come back from the dead. Su Fong was shocked and stunned. After thinking for a while, he suddenly realized. So the test of the first level is not about strength, but one's Tao heart and will. The Reizeigu people set the test to choose a master for the original realm of the Luais. No matter how difficult it was, they would not set a test that could not be passed. That would be meaningless. Su Fong was not the only opponent he met in the first level. Even the young prince of the Tensei people could not defeat him. Now that he had come back from the dead, it was clear that the purpose of the test was not to defeat the opponent, but to withstand the test of death. As long as I can win a chance of survival for the human race and reach the peak for myself, why should I be afraid of death? Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. A domineering aura that looked down on everything, even death, arose spontaneously at this moment. Boom! 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 Another great battle ensued. Su Fong also used all his skills. Other than the longevity lamp and the heavenly coffin, which could not be activated, he used all his other skills. However, the result was still extremely cruel. Su Fong was still killed by a punch from the Reizeigu people's expert. He only lasted a little longer than the first time. Again, Su Fong's consciousness condensed again. After experiencing death twice in a row, his fighting spirit was completely aroused. He fought with the expert again. Just like this, Su Fong was killed again and again and again and again. After experiencing death more than 10 times, Su Fong realized that his previous guess was right and wrong at the same time. The first level was indeed a test of one's Tao heart and will. However, what one had to face was not only death, but also despair. Chapter 3162. Su Fong experienced death again and again in the face of that powerful expert from the Reizeigu people. Su Fong not only experienced the pain of death, his heart was also filled with endless despair. He felt like he was using all his strength to push a huge rock to the top of a mountain. In the end, the rock would roll down the mountain and start again. The cycle repeated without end. Su Fong knew that this was only a test. However, in the great pain of death, he had forgotten everything. He had forgotten that this was a test. Instead, it was like he was experiencing the cycle of life and death again and again. Su Fong's heart had long been numb. He was only holding on with the stubbornness in his heart. However, he knew very well that no matter how strong his stubbornness was, he would not be able to hold on until the end. Give up. As long as you give up, everything will end. There will be no more death, no more pain, and no more despair. There was a voice in Su Fong's heart that kept telling him. There were countless times when his will began to waver. He might as well let that expert from the Reizeigu people kill him and give up everything. Just as he was about to give up, scenes of his past appeared in his mind. I, Su Fong, don't believe in fate. The scene of him touching the gate of heaven and swearing to become a cultivator appeared in his mind. No one can predict the future. Only the present is left. The present is everything. Don't ask for the future. Just grasp the present. Life is bitter and short. 10 years is a long dream. Seize every moment. With a courageous heart, overcome all difficulties and obstacles. Cultivation is not about living a long life. It is about living every day well. Even if the road ahead is full of twists and turns and thorns, you have to move forward courageously and make progress. Xu Wanzhen's voice echoed in his mind again. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was in the small world. Not only the small world, but also the great world, the myriad worlds, and the Jiuxuan divine realm. Time after time, the scenes that happened in Su Fang's mind flashed through his mind. It was as if lightning flashed through Su Fang's mind. Cultivation is not about obtaining eternal life. It is about living every day well. Seize every moment and live in the present. Because I could only see the result of death and not hope, I felt pain and wanted to give up. In a person's lifetime, no matter if it's a mortal, an immortal, a god, or any other life in the chaos, except for a few immortal beings, they will all die in the end. Isn't the test of the first heaven of the Luai's origin realm a lifetime? Since death is inevitable, what's the point of living? I don't need to see the result. I should experience the process and live every moment. Only then will my death be meaningful. Thinking of this, Su Fang's determination became even more resolute. He no longer thought about the consequences of death. Instead, he went all out to experience every moment of the battle with the Reizeigu people and even the feeling of death. He no longer feared death, nor did he care about hope. Mysterious solution of heaven's divination, heaven's eye. My master's 10 directions seal. Primordial heavenly wheel, 9 suns heavenly wheel. Su Fang used the mysterious solution of heaven's divination to constantly deduce the opponent's flaws. At the same time, he also used the mysterious solution of heaven's divination to deduce various plans. He displayed powerful, remarkable abilities, and began to fight with the Reizeigu people. Failure after failure allowed Su Fang's strength to increase time and time again. What he increased was not his cultivation base, but his actual combat ability. The time he could last against the Reizeigu people gradually increased. From a dozen breaths to an incense stick's time, then to 2 hours, and finally to a few days. Su Fang's eyes were no longer filled with despair and confusion. Instead, they became more energetic, as if he was immersed in great joy. Unknowingly, Su Fang's fruit of holding was quietly and rapidly growing and sprouting. Like a seed, it was transforming in Su Fang's body. Outside the independent spacetime where Su Fang was, a pair of eyes from the void were staring at Su Fang. There was surprise in his eyes. It was the realm spirit of the Luai's original realm. This human cultivator's strength is very ordinary. His talent is at most not bad. However, he has an abnormally strong Tao heart, will, and wisdom. It seems that the test of the first heaven is no longer a problem for him. The realm spirit muttered to himself. Then, he looked at the young prince of the Tensei people in another independent spacetime. A cultivator from the celestial race. His strength is also ordinary. However, his talent is better than that of the human race. Moreover, he is also a junior with a strong willpower. Interesting. I wonder which of the two of them will be able to go further. A smile appeared in the realm spirit's eyes before he disappeared into nothingness. Just like Su Fang, in another independent spacetime, the young prince of the Tensei people, Zhou Nuo, also experienced life and death situations. His opponent was an expert of the Reizeigu people who was at the peak of the upper Tao Void realm. Even with his strength, he was also killed time and time again. However, after each death, the ferocious smile on his beautiful face would become more intense. His eyes flashed with madness and arrogance. There was also endless mockery. He actually treated each death as a game. Death was like a failure in the game. Resurrection was equivalent to starting the game all over again. The reason why I, Zhou Nuo, have my current strength and status is not because of my bloodline or talent. It is because I have stepped on mountains of corpses, seas of blood, and piles of bones to obtain the recognition of my father and the higher-ups of the clan. So what if I die? I, Zhou Nuo, have experienced many things that are more terrifying than death. The test of the first heaven is just a game to me. It is not difficult for me at all. I want to become the master of the Luai's original realm, and become an unparalleled immortal. I want to make those high and mighty giants of the clan kneel at my feet. I want to trample all my brothers and sisters who are fighting for power with me under my feet. The stubbornness in my heart is like the heavens. Even death cannot erase it. After another resurrection, Zhou Nuo's long hair danced wildly in the wind. His eyes were filled with a crazy stubbornness. Time flew. Su Fang and Zhou Nuo had completely ignored the existence of time in their repeated death. Unknowingly, 5,000 years had passed. The many foreign race cultivators anxiously waiting in the ruins of God began to worry about Zhou Nuo's safety. Why hasn't young Prince Zhou Nuo come out yet? Could it be that something happened? The young prince's life talisman is intact. It can be seen that he is safe and sound. Let's wait patiently. He better be fine. Otherwise, none of us will be able to escape punishment. At this moment, boom! Near the edge of the ruins of God, an incomparably tyrannical aura suddenly soared into the sky. Immediately after, tribulation clouds directly passed through the boundary of the ruins of God and appeared in the sky above the ruins of God. They were vast and mighty, rolling and sweeping, covering the sky and covering the sun. The entire tribulation cloud covered an area of tens of millions of miles. That is the Great Tribulation of Daozu. There is actually a cultivator undergoing the Great Tribulation of Daozu in the ruins of God. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. There is an evil aura in the tribulation cloud. It must be a powerful cultivator of an evil race undergoing tribulation in the ruins of God. Judging from the extraordinary aura of the tribulation cloud, that powerful cultivator will definitely be a powerful Daozu once he succeeds. Many Tensei people's attention was immediately attracted. They were all surprised and shocked. The strongest Tensei people, Daozu, shouted at the Yi clan's Daozu, "Go and see who it is. If he succeeds and isn't a cultivator of an upper race, let him join the young prince." The young prince's luck is truly amazing. This time, not only did he obtain the inheritance of the Reizeigu people, but he will also have a Daozu under his command. Yes, the Yi clan's Daozu flew in the direction of the tribulation. The one undergoing the tribulation was Saint Sovereign Xie Zhu. He had reached the limit of a Dao saint long ago. With the help of the Thunder Pool crystal, he was able to successfully reach the Daozu level. In the original realm of Luai's, Su Fang had experienced death and failure again and again. After deducing and summarizing the solution of heaven's expansion and putting it into practice again and again, his combat ability had improved at an astonishing speed. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang did not hesitate to use the mediating destiny technique and finally attacked the weak point of the Reizeigu people. He used the heaven-piercing blood king vine to shackle him and then injected a stream of primordial qi into his head from the back. The head of the powerful expert from the Luai's ancient clan began to shatter, followed by his body. In the end, his huge body collapsed like a collapsing mountain, turning into an aura of nothingness and disappearing from the independent space. Su Fang sat on the ground, panting heavily. Although he was only a consciousness, everything he experienced was no different from reality, including the consumption of his life force and cultivation. After killing the Reizeigu people's powerful cultivator, Su Fang had used up all his energy and life force. However, he had finally won. This also meant that Su Fang had passed the first test of the Thunder Pool original realm. Su Fang's face was covered with a layer of death aura, like a dying person. However, his eyes were incomparably hale and hearty. After experiencing countless deaths and setbacks, he had finally defeated a strong opponent. Moreover, His strength had increased tremendously because of it. How could he not be happy? More importantly, he had finally passed the first test of the Thunder Pool original realm. On the path to the supreme peak, he had taken a difficult but firm step forward. At this time, the realm spirit's voice abruptly resounded in Su Fang's mind. Human race cultivator, you have truly surprised me. I never would have thought that a weak human race cultivator would actually have such a tenacious will, great courage, and great wisdom. Su Fang asked, Lord Realm Spirit, have I passed the first test of the Thunder Pool original realm? For the first test of the Thunder Pool original realm, if you can survive for 10,000 years in the test of death, you will pass. Since you have killed your opponent, you naturally passed the test in advance. Congratulations, human cultivator. Next, you will receive a reward that you will never imagine. As soon as the realm spirit's voice fell, Su Fang's consciousness immediately collapsed. Su Fang felt his vision turn black. Chapter 3163. Bang! After losing consciousness for a short while, Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes. He looked over. At this moment, he was in a vast and boundless space-time. Above him was the blue sky. 9 divine suns hung high in the sky, releasing dazzling light. Under the sky was a boundless material territory. Mountains, forests, rivers, lakes, birds, and flowers. It was a quiet and peaceful scene. It was like the legendary paradise, full of vitality. Su Fang projected his great perfection sensory ability. He found that the spiritual energy here was extremely abundant, but it was very low level. The laws of heaven and earth were also very shallow. It was actually a small world. Su Fang was surprised. This is the Luai's original realm? It seems like a small world. How can there be such a place in the Luai's original realm? Then, he reached out and grabbed. The space was like a thin piece of paper, easily torn by his palm. It was indeed a small world. To Su Fang, the shackles of the world were almost non-existent. While he was surprised, a divine light flashed in the void in front of him and quickly transformed into a white-haired old man. The old man looked like the cultivators of the Reizeigu people, but his figure was similar to a normal human cultivator. There was no aura of life. He was clearly a figure of will. Su Fang cupped his fists and said, Lord Realm Spirit? That's right, it's me. Human cultivator, congratulations. You have successfully passed the first test and completed it in advance. Therefore, you can receive 3 times the reward for passing the test in normal time. The old man nodded and waved his hand in the air. A bolt of lightning surged out from the void. The lightning was extremely strange. Whether it was with the primordial spirit or with the naked eye, it could not be seen. However, it could be sensed with the Tao heart. It was really amazing. The lightning instantly enveloped Su Fang and immediately seeped into his Tao heart. Sizzle, the lightning seeped into Su Fang's Tao heart. A pleasant sound of thunder sounded in his soul, and his Tao heart began to tremble. Su Fang's Tao heart began to exude layers of impurities like a placenta. Su Fang was able to sense that his Tao heart was undergoing an extremely miraculous change. It was becoming even purer and firmer, and it was like an unpolished jade that had its impurities removed. At the same time, he was surprised to find that the ice heart flower and the immortal heavenly heart stone, which were extremely difficult to fuse, were also fusing faster with his Tao heart. The transformation of his Tao heart made Su Fang feel as if he were floating in the air. Every pore of his body was exuding a sense of comfort, and even his soul was being elevated. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, that wonderful feeling gradually subsided, and the lightning disappeared without a trace. Su Fang sensed the Tao heart and was surprised and delighted. Su Fang's 7-colored Vajra Tao heart had fused with the ice heart flower and the immortal sky heart stone, which meant that he had a higher chance of cultivating an immortal Tao heart. Previously in Nirvana? When he became a saint, Su Fang's Tao heart underwent a transformation. His Tao heart had almost reached the third level of the immortal Tao heart. After being cleansed by the lightning, his Tao heart had transformed once more, reaching at least the fifth or sixth level of the immortal Tao heart. In addition to the previous life or death tempering, Su Fang's Tao heart was more than 10 times stronger than before. The Tao heart was the foundation of a cultivator, and it was also the most difficult to cultivate. Now that his Tao heart had undergone such a great improvement, how could Su Fang not be happy? Su Fang asked in disbelief. "My lord, this is," Realm Spirit explained, "the first test is to test the Tao heart. The reward is to cleanse the Tao heart with the heart thunder." Cleansing the Tao heart with the heart thunder? Su Fang was very curious. The Reizeigu people were indeed extraordinary. They actually had a wonderful Tao technique that could cleanse the Tao heart. This is an extremely rare opportunity. In the past, other than the top geniuses, the Reizeigu people only had 3 chances to cleanse the Tao heart in their lifetime. "Thank you, Lord Realm Spirit." "No need to thank me. You deserve it. I'm just following the will and rules set by the immortal masters of the Reizeigu people. It seems that you're also an extraordinary human cultivator with great fortune. You're about to cultivate the immortal Tao heart, and you're about to attain immortality. In all the records I've written about the human race of the Reizeigu people, even the higher races, I've never seen a cultivator like you. My luck is not bad." "Luck? Haha, there are still 8 more levels. Luck alone is not enough. It was already so difficult for you to pass the first level. The next level, haha, it'll be even harder. As long as I have the courage and the determination in my heart, I'll definitely succeed." As Su Fang said this, his divine light suddenly changed. Buzz, buzz, buzz. His Tao heart, which had just undergone a transformation, was trembling violently again. It felt like it was about to split apart. It wasn't just his Tao heart. His entire being felt like it was about to transform. An extremely powerful will and belief burst out from his body. It was the persistence hidden deep within his body. It released an obsession that would not give up until he reached the peak. It would rather die than stop. Su Fang was shocked at first. Then, he realized something. His eyes flashed with surprise and joy. "My zombie is about to be born." In the first level of the test, Su Fang had experienced countless death. In the face of death, the obsession in his heart had never been extinguished. This caused his state of mind to sublimate and his obsession to become even more tenacious. These were the nutrients needed to cultivate a zombie. In addition, his Tao heart had undergone a shocking transformation after the heart thunder marrow cleansing. It allowed Su Fang to successfully give birth to a zombie. The shocking obsession caused Su Fang's aura to change greatly. Realm Spirit was also surprised when he sensed Su Fang's aura. His expression changed slightly. In his eyes, Su Fang was like a divine sword from the primordial heavens that remained unyielding no matter how many setbacks he faced. He was capable of crushing all obstructions and slashing apart all thorns. "It seems that I have underestimated this human cultivator." Realm Spirit stared at Su Fang. His gaze was different from before. Su Fang's aura quickly retracted. Everything returned to normal. It was as if nothing had happened. However, Su Fang knew very well that he was no longer the Su Fang of the past. He was a Su Fang dominated by his obsession. More accurately, he was Su Fang's zombie. Becoming a zombie means that there will be a great change in my strength. My realm is also about to rise. Su Fang sensed that as the zombie was cultivated, the invisible shackles that led to the middle level of Tao Saint shattered. Next, he only needed to continue accumulating and settling down. Before long, he would be able to step into the new middle level of Tao Saint. As for his strength, Su Fang was confident that with the experience and skills he gained from dying time and time again, coupled with cultivating a zombie, not only did he have the strength to fight against an ordinary Daozu, he could even win. At this moment, Realm Spirit asked, Human cultivator, what is your name? Su Fong felt depressed. Realm Spirit only remembered to ask for his name now. It was obvious that he did not take him seriously before. However, at the same time, it also proved that his performance in the first test and Su Fong's strength had made Realm Spirit take him seriously. Su Fong said politely, "I am Su Fong." He had to be polite. Although Realm Spirit followed the will left behind by the Reizeigu people, if he offended Su Fong would be consigned to eternal damnation if Su Fong did something to him in the next 8 tests. Realm Spirit nodded. Next, you can continue with the second test. If you fail, you will not be killed. You will still have another chance after 1,000,000 years. Do you choose to leave or continue with the second test? There is such a chance? Su Fong was surprised. Of course, he had to continue. Even if he did not succeed, he could figure out some experience and be prepared within 1,000,000 years. However, I have to remind you that your Tao heart has just transformed, and your cultivation seems to have improved greatly. It is in an unstable state. In your current state, the possibility of you passing the second test is almost 0. I am willing to give it a try. As you wish, sir. May I ask what the second test is? You will know when the time comes. If I tell you now, you will be worried about your gains and losses. It will affect you. There is one thing I don't understand. I would like to ask you, why is there a small world in the original realm of Luais? The original realm of Luais is a time-space created by the Reizeigu people by imitating the laws of heaven. The first layer is at the bottom, so it is naturally like a low-grade universe. However, compared to ordinary low-grade universes, the first layer of the original realm of Luais is hundreds to thousands of times more powerful. I see. Then the second layer should be a large world where immortals live, and the third layer should be a myriad of worlds where low-grade cosmos gods live. What are the 6 layers above? When you pass the test, you will naturally know. If you don't pass the test, you will be directly erased. Everything will turn to nothing. Even if you know, it will be meaningless. Realm Spirit said bluntly. He did not give Su Fong any face at all. After a pause, Realm Spirit continued, "You passed the first layer of the test, which means you have part of the authority to control the first layer. Therefore, you can bring mortals from low-grade universes into the first layer of the test. Even if you do not pass the later tests and die, those mortals from low-grade universes can still live in the original realm of Luais." Su Fong was surprised. There is such a rule? Tall buildings are built from the ground. Although the mortals in the small world are as insignificant as ants, they are the lowest level of life. At the same time, they are also the foundation. The original realm of Luais is not perfect. It needs a large number of low-grade life forms to maintain the cycle of life. I understand. Su Fong began to think. He could move some low-grade life forms from the heavenly Tao avatar into the first layer of the original realm of Luais. After passing the second and third layers, he could even move all the cultivators from the great worlds of Pangang universe into the original realm of Luais. This way, even if he encountered any mishaps, his father, friends, and subordinates could continue to live in the original realm of Luais without any worries. Since you want to continue to the second layer of the test, follow me. Chapter 3164. Su Fong had already entered the second test. The young prince of the Tensei people, Zhou Nuo, was still in that space-time, experiencing the cycle of life and death again and again. As expected of a peerless genius of the higher races, Zhou Nuo actually relied on his powerful Tao heart, willpower, and almost crazy persistence to persist for 10,000 years. Finally, he made it to the end of the first test. Zhou Nuo's entire body was trembling. His face was as pale as paper. His aura was weak and his eyes had turned red. He looked like a ferocious beast that wanted to eat people. I passed. I finally passed. Ha ha ha. Zhou Nuo let out a burst of wild laughter. He was very happy and proud. Congratulations, cultivator of the Tensei people. You have successfully passed the first test. Realm Spirit's voice sounded in Zhou Nua's mind. Zhou Nua restrained his madness and calmed down. He asked, Lord Realm Spirit, how long did that heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan last? 1,000 years? 2,000 years? 3,000 years? Not as long as you. It was only half of your time. Realm Spirit answered. What he said was the truth. However, Realm Spirit only said half of it. Su Fang indeed only lasted half of Zhou Nua's time. However, he managed to kill his opponent and ended the first test early. Zhou Nua misunderstood Realm Spirit's words. He let out a snort and said, You actually lasted for 5,000 years. Not bad. However, you really overestimated yourself if you want to compete with me. You only have yourself to blame for ending up like this after vainly trying to compete with me. Realm Spirit did not explain anything to Zhou Nu. He said directly, Next, you will receive the Heart Thunder Marrow Cleansing reward. After that, you can continue to the second test. Heart Thunder Marrow Cleansing? I didn't expect to have such a good fortune. Since I have a chance to enter the second test, I will give it a try no matter what. Perhaps I will pass the second test directly. Your chances are not high. Junior, confidence is a good thing. However, overconfidence is arrogance. You can lose your life at any time. Realm Spirit let out an indescribable snort. Just as Zhou Nua was receiving the Heart Thunder Marrow Cleansing Dao Heart, Su Fang had already entered the second test. Those who entered the second heaven were still bodies of consciousness, not their true bodies. The space they entered was obviously not the real second heaven, but an independent space-time used for testing. Su Fang fixed his eyes on it. At this moment, he was at the shore of a vast ocean. The ocean stretched as far as the eye could see, and the surface of the ocean was as calm as a mirror. On the surface of the sea, floating islands extended all the way to the depths of the sea. Su Fang carefully sensed it and found that the seawater was not real water, but was visualized and transformed by the power of will. As the sea breeze blew, Su Fang felt waves of willpower assault him. He felt like he was about to get lost in the vast sea. Su Fang was astonished. Could it be that the second heaven is the same as the first heaven, and also tests one's Tao heart and willpower? Looking at the vast and boundless sea, Su Fang felt both nervous and expectant. Phew, a small boat appeared on the shore in front of Su Fang. The boat was only 10 feet long, and was made of the simplest wooden planks. It was estimated that a small wave would be able to break through it. Then, the Realm Spirit's voice rang in Su Fang's mind. Human cultivator Su Fang, the second heaven's test is still the Tao heart and willpower. However, it is different from the first heaven. The second heaven tests the utilization of the Tao heart and willpower. The utilization of the Tao heart and willpower? The path of cultivation is filled with difficulties and obstacles. You will also encounter all kinds of temptations. When faced with difficulties, some people will shrink back, some will lose their minds, and some will have their willpower crumble, unable to move forward. Only by holding on to the Tao heart can you overcome all the obstacles. The second heaven's test is to use the Tao heart as the boat to cross the sea of confusion. Using the Tao heart as the boat to cross the sea of confusion? Su Fang was astonished. In order to become the Lord of the Thunder Lake original realm, you must first have a strong Tao heart and willpower. You must pass the test of willpower. The second heaven's test is very simple. Merge your Tao heart with the boat and use your willpower as the defense. The stronger your Tao heart is, the sturdier the boat's defense will be. The ability to resist the wind and waves in the sea of confusion will also be stronger. There are a total of 99 islands in the sea of confusion. You will only be able to rest temporarily after you set foot on the islands. You will be considered to have passed the test after you set foot on all the islands. If your Tao heart's boat is shattered or you get lost in the sea of confusion before you set foot on the island, you will fail the test. You will only have 2 chances. If you fail this time and fail again 1,000,000 years later, it will mean that you will be obliterated. Human cultivator Su Fong, begin. I want to see how far you can go. The realm spirit's voice rang in Su Fong's mind. Su Fong thought to himself, it seems like every test in the Thunder Lake original realm has a profound meaning. The first heaven requires one to face life and death, while the second heaven requires one to pass through all the difficulties and obstacles. Su Fongdao walked to the seaside and stepped on the boat. The moment he stepped on the boat, he felt as if he had become one with the boat. At this moment, the boat was him, and he was the boat. As he entered the boat's body began to change rapidly. It quickly grew from 3 meters to 30 meters, 300 meters. Finally, it became a gigantic boat that was 300 meters in size. The boat's body was incomparably sturdy. There was a layer of barrier defense around the boat's body. The entire gigantic boat emitted a transcendent and immortal aura. As long as I hold on to my Tao heart, the boat formed by my Tao heart will definitely be able to ride the wind and waves, crush all obstacles, and step on all 99 islands. Su Fong's heart was filled with determination. The gigantic boat let out a loud rumble and quickly sailed towards the nearest island. Whoosh! A strange wind swept across the sea, setting off a huge wave that was more than 3 meters high. It swept towards the gigantic boat formed by Su Fong's Tao heart. Rumble! The waves crashed onto the gigantic boat and were shattered by the gigantic boat's defense. The gigantic boat rode the wind and waves with an imposing manner that could crush everything. The gigantic boat was constantly rocked by the waves, but it was still unable to shake the gigantic boat's defense. Half a month later, the gigantic boat finally arrived at the first island. Around the island, it was calm and tranquil. Su Fong rested on the island for 3 days. His slightly exhausted Tao heart had recovered to its original state. Then, the gigantic boat formed by his Tao heart continued to ride the wind and waves, sailing towards the next island. At this time, the waves had become 10 meters high, covering the sky and the earth. The sea breeze had also become extremely violent, causing the gigantic boat to shake violently. Su Fong now had an immortal Tao heart that was close to the 6th level. How strong was his willpower! The gigantic boat formed by his Tao heart was still as stable as a rock under the impact of the wind and waves. That was to say, the gigantic boat's speed had slowed down a lot. This time, Su Fong used 3 months to reach the second island. The further they went, the more astonishing the waves became. Wave after wave crashed onto the gigantic boat, trying to overturn it. There was also the terrifying sea breeze. It roared and whistled, penetrating the barrier around the gigantic boat and attacking Su Fong's heart. Cracks began to appear on the hull's defense, and the entire gigantic boat was undulating in the waves. I, Su Fong, have experienced countless dangers in this life. I have surpassed countless difficulties and obstacles. My Tao heart is like iron. Mere waves can't shake my Tao heart. Su Fong's heart was unmoved. He constantly restored the barrier with his willpower and steered the gigantic boat forward in the heavy wind and wave. About 10 years, Su Fong had successfully passed 11 islands, which was equivalent to more than 10% of the second test. Although he felt that his willpower was very tired, it was still within the range that he could bear. After resting for 3 days, the gigantic boat formed by Su Fong's Tao heart left the island and continued to sail towards the depths of the lost sea of consciousness. The waves were 10 times more violent than the ones before, and they surged towards the giant ship. The stormy waves were monstrous. Boom, boom, boom. The gigantic boat overturned the peaks of the waves, rising and falling, moving forward with difficulty. Suddenly a silver light flashed from one of the peaks of the waves. Su Fong looked carefully and saw that it was a huge silver fish that was 100 feet long. At the same time, some information naturally appeared in Su Fong's heart. That silver fish was a rare treasure born in the lost sea of consciousness. It contained pure willpower. If he swallowed such a silver fish, his immortal Tao heart would at least reach the 6th level of perfection. I didn't expect that there would be such an amazing treasure in the lost sea of consciousness. I must get this treasure no matter what. Su Fang's eyes suddenly became incomparably hale and hearty. With a thought, a consciousness tentacle extended out from the gigantic boat and fell into the peaks of the wave. It firmly grabbed the silver fish that was about to disappear, and then flew towards the gigantic boat with a whoosh. Who knew as soon as the silver fish fell on the deck, it instantly turned into a ferocious and terrifying shark and fiercely pounced on Su Fang's consciousness. I've been fooled. So this is also a test. It's a test of how to face temptation. My willpower is as firm as iron and as sharp as a knife. No one can break my Tao heart. Break for me. Su Fang suddenly understood. On the road to the supreme peak, there were not only difficulties and obstacles, but also many temptations. For cultivators, these temptations were much more terrifying than those life and death dangers. Often, they would give cultivators a fatal blow when they were unprepared. And that silver fish just now was a temptation created by the lost sea of consciousness. It directly deceived Su Fang, passed through his defense, and wanted to swallow Su Fang's Tao heart. Fortunately, Su Fang's Tao heart was incomparably strong. Although he was caught off guard, he was still able to calmly resolve it. The explosive willpower shattered the shark that the silver fish had transformed into. Next, Su Fang encountered even greater storms, and at the same time, he encountered all kinds of temptations. Fame and fortune, beautiful women, power, money, and all kinds of temptations transformed into all kinds of treasures, which made Su Fang's heart naturally greedy and wanted to take them for himself. Cultivation is not about greed and wealth, but about being clean and honest. Although power and treasures are good, they are all stepping stones for me to set foot on the endless peak. Don't try to numb and control my Tao heart. Break, break, break. Chapter 3165. The willpower storm that Su Fang encountered was even more ferocious. It was extremely difficult for him to move forward by one zhang. Fortunately, there were still islands above the Sea of Confusion that gave Su Fang a chance to catch his breath. As Su Fang's speed became slower and slower, it used to take him a few days to a few months to cross an island. Now, it would take him years, decades, or even centuries. Time flew by quickly. Unknowingly, Su Fang had spent 5,000 years in the Sea of Confusion. The giant ship that he formed with his Tao heart finally set foot on the 22nd island. It's too difficult. The further I go, the harder it will be. I have only crossed 22 islands. There are still more than 70 islands to go. The difficulty will also increase. I can't pass the test of the second heaven this time. Fine, I will do my best this time. I will go as far as I can go. Su Fang looked into the depths of the Sea of Confusion. His eyes were first filled with fear, then they gradually became resolute. 23rd Island. Su Fang steered the giant ship again. It faced the terrifying willpower storm and sailed towards the next island. The young prince of the Tensei people, Zhou Nuo, had also started the test of the second heaven. The ship that he formed with his Tao heart was only a few hundred zhang long. It was far smaller than Su Fang. However, it was a battleship. The battleship exuded a mighty, fierce, domineering, and ferocious aura. The battleship crushed the waves in the Sea of Confusion. It rode the wind and broke through the waves and arrived at the 11th island. From the 11th island, one could see the roaring hurricanes and the surging waves ahead. Could it be that someone is undergoing the test of the second heaven? Apart from me and the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan, who else could have entered the Thunder Lake original realm? Could it be that the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan did not perish in the first heaven? Zhou Nuo was puzzled. Soon, Zhou Nuo rejected his own thoughts. Impossible. Even if the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan passed the test of the first heaven, It is impossible for him to be so far ahead of me. That might be a vision in the sea of confusion. Boom! Boom! The battleship continued to move forward, bringing with it an aura that could crush everything. It charged through the waves and soon passed the 11th island. After stopping for a moment, Zhou Nuo steered the Dao Heart battleship towards the 12th island. Just like Su Fang, Zhou Nuo also saw the silver fish and had the same desire. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed the silver fish and put it on the warship. The silver fish instantly transformed into a terrifyingly huge shark, crushing Zhou Nuo's consciousness to pieces. The battleship shattered and disappeared into the sea of confusion. Tensei people, Zhou Nuo, if you fail the trial, you will continue to undergo the second trial a million years later. If you fail again, you will die. When Zhou Nuo returned to the first layer of heaven, the realm spirit's cold voice immediately resounded in his mind. Who would have thought that I would actually fail? It seems that the difficulty of the Leisure Original Realms test far exceeds my imagination. Zhou Nuo was quite unwilling to accept this result. At the same time, he also felt an enormous sense of danger. Once he failed, it would mean that he would truly be obliterated. How could Zhou Nuo not be afraid? My lord, may I ask if I, Su Fang, will enter the Leisure Original Realm a million years later? A million years later, no matter where you are, you will not be able to escape the detection of the Leisure Original Realm. At that time, you will be directly taken into the Leisure Original Realm. Junior of the Tensei people, you have a million years to prepare. If you fail again, you will not have another chance in the future. Thank you for your reminder, my lord. Then, a wave of spatial distortion swept Zhou Nuo up and moved him out of the first layer of heaven. When Zhou Nuo staggered out from the void where the Leisure Shrine was, he immediately attracted the attention of many experts of the Tensei people. One after another, they rushed over. Young prince, you are finally out. This time, the young prince will definitely succeed and obtain the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. Congratulations, young prince. Led by the two Daozu experts of the Tensei people, many Tensei people congratulated Zhou Nuo. Things are not that simple. Zhou Nuo waved his hand and the entire crowd fell silent. One of the Tensei people, Daozu, asked in astonishment, could it be that the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan escaped? Or did he ruin the young prince's plans? Heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan? He died in the Leisure Original Realm long ago. Let's go, quickly return to our race. Zhou Nuo was anxious to find a way to pass the test of the second layer of heaven in the Leisure Original Realm, so he hurriedly returned to the Tensei people. Young prince, there is one more thing I have to report to you. One of the Daozu experts told Zhou Nuo about a foreign expert undergoing the Daozu tribulation in the ruins of God. Zhou Nuo nodded and said, just subdue him directly. At least this trip to the Reizeigu people's ruins of God was not in vain. The Tensei people, Daozu, replied. That expert successfully ascended to Daozu, and some people recognized him. He was Holy Sovereign Xieju, who had disappeared for a long time. This subordinate arranged for people to head over in an attempt to subdue him, but who would have thought that he would hide in a corpse flame abyss? It's very difficult for others to enter. Holy Sovereign Xieju? He's just a nobody. It's not worth wasting too much energy on him. Let him be. Zhou Nuo frowned and ignored Holy Sovereign Xieju. The matter of the Leisure Original Realm was related to his life and future. Compared to that, Holy Sovereign Xieju was a trivial matter. Just as he was about to leave, Zhou Nuo suddenly stopped and said, have those two human Daozu experts stay here. If there are any strange movements or people of unknown origins, suppress them all. Return to the Tensei people after 10,000 years. It turned out that he had suddenly remembered the storm in the Leisure Original Realms, Second Heaven. He had felt a faint sense of unease when he saw the storm in front of him. Zhou Nuo was extremely meticulous, so he had the Hu people and Daozu of the Yi clan stay in the ruins of God. Only then could he feel at ease. Then, Zhou Nua led the Tensei people out of the ruins of God. The Hu people and Daozu of the Yi clan stayed behind. Yi clan ancestor, why did the young prince keep us here? This young prince of the Tensei people not only has an extraordinary status, but he's also quite shrewd. Who knows what his intentions are? Alas, the 5 divine clans were bewitched by Xianzheng and joined the Tensei people. Who would have thought that you and I, Daozu experts, would be ordered around like slaves by a young prince of the Tensei people? That's still better than staying in the Jiuquan realm of the gods and being destroyed by the alien races. After the experts of the Tensei people left, Daozu of the Hu people and Daozu of the Yi people conversed in secret. Both of them felt regretful. Luai's original realm's second heaven, Lost Heart Sea. As soon as Su Fang's Dao Heart ship sailed out of the 22nd island, it encountered a test of willpower that it had never encountered before. Hoo! Gusts of wind swept up the thick fog and rolled towards the giant ship, instantly enveloping the ship. The fog penetrated the enchantment outside the giant ship and swallowed Su Fang's consciousness. Qing Yu's furious voice suddenly rang out, "Su Fang, bad news. Su Danshan has been killed by the Migres Star Lord, and his corpse has been hung above the gates of Heaven Pavilion for everyone to see." Sudan Dust? Sudan Dust was the reincarnation of Su Fang's grandfather. He had been cultivating in the medicine god path, and Su Fang had been secretly watching him. Later, when the alien races invaded the human world, Su Fang asked Tua Qianji to sneak the medicine god path into the East Profound Heaven Pavilion. Naturally, Sudan Dust also moved into Heaven Pavilion. However, Su Fang didn't look for Sudan Dust because he didn't want to interfere with Sudan Dust's fate. Instead, he secretly sent people to protect him. Who would have thought? The Migres Star Lord had killed his grandfather's reincarnation? This made Su Fang's heart burn with rage. Anger was the easiest way to make people lose their rationality and control their willpower. Suddenly hearing the news of his grandfather's reincarnation, Su Fang also lost his calm in his anger. Buzz! His Dao heart suddenly trembled, shattering the power that wanted to control Su Fang's willpower. An illusion? So it's an illusion test. Fortunately, my Dao heart is strong enough to prevent me from being controlled by anger. Su Fang's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately came to his senses. You want to affect Su Fang with a mere illusion? Su Fang let out a snort of laughter in his heart. His willpower suddenly erupted and dispersed the surrounding fog. Then, an even thicker fog rolled toward Su Fang. Bai Ling's anxious voice sounded in Su Fang's mind again. "Su Fang, bad news. Xuanxin has been taken away by Lung Lingfeng. The marriage ceremony is going to be held tomorrow. It's another illusion. Xuanxin is in the Ice Soul Sacred Realm and has been adopted by ancestor Xue. How would Lung Lingfeng dare to touch her? Even if something happens to Xuanxin, it's useless for me to panic. Instead, I'll lose my cool and do something irreversible." Su Fang's Dao heart was firm, and the illusion couldn't affect him at all. Next, Su Fang kept falling into all kinds of illusions. His father died, and his family and friends were killed. The alien race destroyed the human race, and the entire Jiuquan god realm turned into a wasteland. He failed the test in the Luai's original realm and was directly killed. Scene after scene, the things that Su Fang was most worried about, and the things that he was most unwilling to see, constantly appeared in Su Fang's mind. Such a test directly targeted the weakest part of Su Fang's heart. It was 10 times more difficult than the previous test of willpower. Su Fang held on to his Dao heart. No matter how the illusion attacked, it was difficult for him to lose his mind and willpower. After an unknown period of time, the giant ship finally rushed out of the fog and arrived on an island again. The 33rd island. I actually passed 1/3 of the Lost Mine Sea. Su Fong felt a kind of exhaustion from the bottom of his heart, but his heart was full of joy. If he continued like this, although it was difficult, it was not impossible for him to pass the second test. Realm Spirit, who had been paying attention to Su Fong, was also surprised. Hey! He actually reached the 33rd island on his first try. This human cultivator is somewhat extraordinary. In terms of Tao heart and willpower, he is much more powerful than the Tensei people. Realm Spirit then snorted coldly. The next test is much more difficult than the previous one. It has already surpassed the human cultivator's limit. No matter how strong his Tao heart is, it is impossible for him to continue. Just as Realm Spirit expected, Su Fong steered the giant ship out of the 33rd island. Huge waves hundreds of feet high swept toward the giant ship wave after wave. In the wind and waves, the giant ship was thrown into the sky and sent into the abyss. Boom. Chapter 3166. Su Fong's original body, which was left on a mountain peak in the first heaven, suddenly opened his eyes. As expected, the second heaven's test is not that easy to pass. I still failed. Although he had already expected to fail, Su Fong still felt a little depressed when he actually failed. However, it only lasted for a moment before Su Fong quickly regained his composure. With his current Tao heart, setbacks and failures could hardly affect his state of mind. He began to ponder the reason for his failure. The reason I failed was because even though my Tao heart was sufficiently firm, it wasn't steady enough. That's why it was easily shaken by the storm in my sea of confusion. But isn't it a little too difficult to pass the test of the second level unless I've cultivated an eternal Tao heart? Su Fong's brows knit together tightly as he muttered to himself. Suddenly, with a flash of divine light, the old man transformed from the realm spirit appeared in front of Su Fong. Su Fong quickly got up and cupped his fists politely. "Greetings, Lord Realm Spirit." The Realm Spirit nodded and said, "Human race cultivator Su Fong, I can't help but feel a little surprised that you were able to pass the third test of the second heaven. However, if you don't have any fortuitous encounters in the next million years, it will be very difficult for you to pass the second heaven's test. Thank you for your reminder, Lord. It's my Tao heart that is not strong enough. In the next million years, I will definitely think of ways to sharpen my Tao heart. Human race cultivator, you are wrong. Extremely wrong. If you sharpen your Tao heart according to your idea, you will not be able to pass the second heavens test unless you cultivate an immortal Tao heart in the next million years." Su Fong was stunned. "I'm wrong? Please enlighten me, Lord." The realm spirit stroked his white beard and continued, "The Luai's original realm has set up an impossible test. It's not that your Tao heart is not strong, firm, or stable enough. It's just that your Tao heart's realm is not high enough. The only thing you can use now is brute force." Realm is not high enough? No matter how sharp and hard a divine sword is, there will be a time when it breaks. However, even the sharpest divine sword can't cut through ordinary flowing water. Go and comprehend it yourself. I can only remind you of this. I hope that the next time I see you, you will be able to comprehend the principles behind it. A thought flashed through Su Fong's mind, but he couldn't grasp it in a short time. Human cultivator, go. I hope you will be lucky enough to find a way to pass the second heavenly trial within a million years. This seat also does not wish for you to die in the second heavenly trial. With that, Realm Spirit waved his sleeve and unleashed a divine aura that sent Su Fong away from the Thunder Lake original realm. Su Fong appeared in the sky above the ruins of God in a flash. After stumbling for a moment, he quickly stabilized himself. My Tao heart's level is not high enough, Su Fong frowned, still thinking about Realm Spirit's words. It's him? It's Su Fong. Two shocked exclamations came from above the ruins of God. It was the Hu people and the Daozu of the Yi clan who were left behind by Zhou. During the Jiuquan Heaven Selection Finals, they had used their consciousnesses to watch Su Fong's performance. Naturally, they were not unfamiliar with Su Fong. Su Fang had killed many of the Hu people and Yi clan's geniuses and experts. Hu Po and the other 5 divine clans' Dao saints had also died because of Su Fang. The Daozu experts of the Hu and Yi clans naturally had a deep impression of Su Fang. They never imagined that they would see Su Fang in the ruins of God. How could they not be surprised and shocked? Su Fang also saw the 2 Daozu experts and his heart sank. Facing 2 Daozu experts of the human race, although they were ordinary Daozu, they were still peak existences of the human race. Su Fang was confident that he could easily escape from them. If there was only one of them, Su Fang was confident that he could defeat or even kill it. But it was impossible for Su Fang to kill 2 Daozu experts with his current strength. If either of the 2 Daozu escaped, the consequences would be unimaginable. What should I do? Su Fang's mind raced as he tried to think of a solution. That heaven-piercing Blood King vine is Su Fang in disguise. The Hu clan's Dao ancestor came to a realization and understood all at once. After all, he was a Daozu expert who had lived for countless epochs. When he connected the dots, he could easily guess that the heaven-piercing Blood King vine was Su Fang in disguise. Whoosh! The Yi people's Daozu's figure flashed and appeared less than 100 miles away from Su Fang. Then, a thought transformed into a peach leaf that swept towards Su Fang and was about to shackle Su Fang. Yi Zhu, you can't wait to attack. Do you want to take the longevity lamp for yourself? We found it at the same time. If you want to take it for yourself, I will never allow it. The Hu people Daozu saw Yi Zhu Daozu's intention and snorted coldly. A fierce and domineering aura suddenly erupted and shattered Yi Zhu's thought. Yi Zhu Daozu said coldly, Hu Zhu, the relationship between the Hu and Yi clans is not ordinary. How dare you attack me? The Hu people Daozu said embarrassedly, Yi Zhu, even blood brothers have to settle accounts clearly. Besides, this is related to the primordial heavenly treasure and countless other treasures. You and I should discuss the ownership of those treasures before attacking. The 2 Daozu powerhouses treated Su Fang as if he was nothing and discussed how to divide the treasures on Su Fang in front of Su Fang. They were really arrogant and condescending. But it was not strange. The Daozu powerhouses were the supreme beings of the human race, and Su Fang was only at the lower level of Daozu. No matter how heaven-defying he was, how much could he do in the hands of the 2 Daozu powerhouses? At least in the hearts of the Hu and Yi clans Daozu, that was what they thought. Su Fang sneered in his heart and prepared to activate the longevity lamp. Now, only the longevity lamp could kill the 2 Daozu powerhouses. The consequences of letting them escape were too serious. If not, Su Fang would not be willing to suffer the pain of his soul again. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Su Fang's mind. Su Fang, you're in big trouble, aren't you? Do you need my help? Saint Master Xie Zhu? To his surprise, Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu suddenly spoke up. Su Fang replied, What can you do against 2 Daozu? So what if they're Daozu? Hee, I'm also a Daozu now. Su Fang was surprised and delighted. Saint Master Xie Zhu, you've successfully become a Daozu. My strength has long reached the limit of Daozu, and I also have a supreme treasure like the Thunder Pool Gem. What's so strange about me becoming a Daozu? And I'm a powerful Daozu, not a useless human Daozu. Help me kill these 2 human Daozu. If they escape, not only me, but the entire human race may suffer the revenge of the Tensei people. Kill 2 human Daozu at the same time? Impossible. How is that possible? Daozu powerhouses are not that easy to kill. It's easy to defeat them, but difficult to kill them. Didn't you just brag about how powerful you are? Humph. Don't provoke me. It's not impossible to kill these 2 human Daozu, but I need you to be the bait and lure them to my hiding place, which is the corpse flame abyss where I became a Daozu. Only by borrowing the power of the corpse flame abyss can I kill them all. It's a deal. You can escape from 2 Daozu? I highly doubt. You don't have to worry about that. I promise to lure them into the corpse flame abyss. You should also prepare in advance. If they escape, I won't let you off easily. Just as Su Fang and Saint Master Xie Zhu were secretly communicating, the Yi Daozu thought for a while and shouted at the Hu people, "The longevity lamp belongs to me, and the other treasures on Su Fang are all yours." The Hu people Daozu sneered disdainfully. "Why don't we trade? The longevity lamp belongs to me, and the other treasures belong to you. How about that? It seems that both of us are determined to get the longevity lamp, and neither of us is willing to give in. Why don't we suppress Su Fang first, and then divide the other treasures equally? We can decide who the longevity lamp belongs to later." "That's good." At this time, Su Fang suddenly said, "Have the two of you finished discussing?" The Hu people Daozu looked at Su Fang and said coldly, "Su Fang, you have killed so many experts and geniuses of my clan. Now that you are in my hands, you still dare to be so arrogant. Even I have to admire you." The Yi clan Daozu smiled and said, "He has the longevity lamp, so he naturally has the confidence to face two Daozu experts calmly. However, he doesn't know that he won't have the chance to activate the longevity lamp in the hands of two Daozu experts. Boy, are you going to surrender obediently, or do you want me to do it myself?" The Hu people Daozu said indifferently, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I won't surrender, and you can forget about capturing Su Fang." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. A stream of primordial qi surged out of his body and condensed into a primordial wheel, rolling toward the two Daozu experts. At the same time, boom! A powerful willpower erupted from Su Fang's Dao heart. It was not an ordinary willpower, nor was it a willpower visualization technique. It was a powerful willpower formed from an obsession that would not give up until it reached its goal and crushed all obstacles. "What's the point of struggling before death?" The Yi clan Daozu sneered disdainfully. However, in the next moment the two Daozu experts' divine light changed instantly. The powerful willpower attack came before the primordial wheel, rolling toward the two from all directions. Even with the strength of the Hu people and the Yi clan Daozu, their Dao hearts were shaken, and their willpower almost collapsed. They could not help but shrink back, their bodies trembling. At this moment, the primordial wheel shackled the two of them and continued to revolve endlessly. Su Fang had fought with the Reizegu people in the first heaven of the Thunder Lake original realm for 5,000 years. He had died countless times, and his battle experience was even greater than that of the Daozu. Although his cultivation level was still at the lower Dao Saint level, the power of his divine power was 10 times stronger than before, or even stronger. The Hu people and the Yi clan Daozu experts looked down on Su Fang and were caught off guard. They were trapped by the primordial wheel, and even their Dao hearts were damaged. The Daozu experts are only SOSO. Su Fang sneered disdainfully, then teleported away. Boom! Boom! The two Daozu experts shattered the primordial wheel. Although they did not seem to be injured, they were in a sorry state. "Su Fang, if I catch you, I will skin you alive and refine your soul." The Hu people Daozu let out a thunderous roar, then sensed Su Fang's aura. "He is still in the ruins of God. Chase him, we cannot let him escape." The Hu people Daozu did not hesitate to teleport away. Chapter 3167. As soon as Su Fang appeared above the enormous pit of corpse flames, the two Daozu experts flew out one after another. If you want my treasure and life, then let's see if you have the guts and ability to do so." Su Fang looked at the two Tao ancestors with a look of desperation. After gnashing his teeth for a while, he rushed straight into the abyss burning with corpse flames. The Hu people Daozu and the Yi clan Daozu hesitated. The corpse flames burning in the abyss made them rather wary. Moreover, there was an evil alien Daozu hiding in the abyss, which made them even more wary. That kid panicked and didn't know where to go. He actually fled into the place where that alien Dao ancestor was hiding. The Yi clan Daozu raised his white eyebrows and hesitated. The Hu people Daozu snorted. Su Fang has the longevity lamp. If the 5 divine races obtain the longevity lamp, why would they stay among the Tensei people and be slaves to other races with such a precious primordial heavenly treasure? No matter what, we must obtain the longevity lamp. That's right. Such a powerful primordial heavenly treasure is enough for the 5 divine races to carve out a territory among the myriad races in the chaos. Su Fang is cunning. Yi Zhu, go into the abyss of corpse flames and capture Su Fang. I will stand guard here and prevent him from escaping. The Yi clan Daozu snorted. Hu Zhu, you're a smart man. I've lived for so many years, I'm not stupid. There's an alien Daozu hiding in the abyss. You want me to take the risk to capture Su Fang while you stay outside. What a good idea. Since you don't trust me, then fine. I'll go in with you. Remember, it's best not to offend Saint Sovereign Xieju. Just capture Su Fang. Daozu from foreign races are much stronger than Daozu from the human race to begin with. Although Holy Venerate Xieju is a newly ascended Daozu, his strength is probably not inferior to yours or mine. If I don't even know this, I would have lived in vain. I don't need you to remind me of anything. After the 2 Daozu powerhouses schemed against each other, they finally joined forces and charged into the depths of the corpse flame abyss. The abyss was like a sinkhole, and it was the burial ground of the fallen Luai's ancient clan experts. For some reason, all the Reizegu people's corpses in the graveyard spontaneously combusted, filling the entire abyss with evil and terrifying corpse flames. Even the 2 human Daozu had to be careful. When they reached the bottom of the abyss, the corpse flames became even fiercer and burned outside the defenses of the 2 Daozu. Hu people Daozu sensed Su Fang's aura and was both surprised and delighted. Su Fang is at the bottom of the abyss. It seems he's been burned by the corpse flames and is in a severely injured state. Suddenly the surrounding corpse flames tumbled and roared, condensing into a boundary, turning into a terrifying world of corpse flames, shackling the 2 Dao ancestors. Then, Holy Venerate Xieju's sinister and aged voice rang out. 2 low-level human cultivators, when I was ascending, one of you was nearby spying on me. Now that you've entered my territory, could it be that you're plotting against me? Hu people Daozu cupped his fists and said, Lord Holy Venerate, please don't misunderstand. We're not here for you, but for the human cultivator who escaped into this place. My territory is not a place where you humans can come and go as you please. Your Excellency, we're powerhouses under the command of the Tensei people. The human cultivator who escaped here is the fugitive that Zhou Nuo, the young commandery prince of the Tensei people, wants to catch. For the sake of the Tensei people, please make an exception. Tensei people. The Tensei people are a higher race. I've always wanted to join the Tensei people, but unfortunately, I didn't have the chance. How about I help you capture that human cultivator, and you introduce him to the young commandery prince for me? This, Hu people Daozu hesitated. They originally planned to capture Su Fang, take the longevity lamp for themselves, and then leave the Tensei people with their clansmen. If the news was leaked, not only would they lose the longevity lamp, but the young commandery prince of the Tensei people, Zhou Nuo, would also not let them go. Daozu of the Yi clan secretly transmitted his voice. Promise him first. After we capture Su Fang, you and I can join forces. Even if we can't kill him, we can still seriously injure him. When the Tensei people go back on their word, we'll immediately leave the Tensei people with our clansmen. Hu people Daozu nodded secretly. Then, he said to the source of Holy Venerate Xieju's voice, Since your Excellency wants to join the Tensei people, how can I not help you? When the time comes, I'll make a great contribution, and the young commandery prince will definitely reward me. First, Your Excellency, please hand that human cultivator to me. That's great. Holy Venerate Xieju laughed evilly. Then, a corpse flame wrapped around a figure and flew out of the boundary formed by the corpse flame. Taking a closer look, It was Su Fong who was wrapped in the corpse flame. His entire body was burning with the evil corpse flame from the inside out. He was shackled to the point that he couldn't move and kept howling in pain. Su Fong, let's see where you can run to. In the end, you'll still fall into my hands, won't you? Hu People Daozu stared at Su Fong and smiled gloomily. Daozu of the Yi clan's eyes were also full of pride. Little did he know, boom! A corpse flame suddenly rolled out from the world and enveloped Daozu of the Yi clan. It wasn't an ordinary corpse flame. There was a kind of evil and shocking evil flame hidden in the corpse flame, and it contained a kind of great Tao that could burn everything. The corpse flame quickly turned into the shape of a candle. It enveloped Daozu of the Yi clan and burned wildly. It quickly burned away Daozu of the Yi clan's defenses, then his physical body and Tao palace. It looked like Daozu of the Yi clan was a burning candle that would burn until it turned to ashes. It was Holy Venerate Xie Zhu's Zhu evil flame. The Yi clan's Tao saint screamed, "Holy Venerate Xie Zhu, how dare you sneak attack me?" Then, divine patterns that looked like Yi clan's eyes appeared from his body and forced out the evil flame that had invaded his body. Then, the divine patterns turned into a peach leaf shadow that formed a defense around him and blocked the evil flame attack. However, Daozu of the Yi clan was caught off guard and was heavily injured by the evil flame. Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan roared, "Holy Venerate Xie Zhu, what is the meaning of this?" At this moment, Su Fong suddenly attacked. Chi! 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 3 heaven-punishing spikes shot out from the burning corpse flame. They were sharp and evil, and they hit Daozu of the Yi clan one after another. The heaven-punishing spikes were extremely sharp. Since the Yi clan's Tao saint was so close to Su Fong and was not prepared for Su Fong, the heaven-punishing spikes pierced through his defenses. The 3 heaven-punishing spikes shot into the back of his head and out of his forehead. PFFF. Daozu of the Yi clan's head was pierced. The inside of his head was also turned into mush by the heaven-punishing spikes. His defenses were immediately shattered. The evil flame enveloped him again and started to burn wildly. Daozu of the Yi clan was also unlucky. First, he was heavily injured by Holy Venerate Xie Zhu and Su Fong. Then, he was restrained by Holy Venerate Xie Zhu's evil flame. It would be difficult for him to survive. Even his thoughts could not escape. Holy Venerate Xie Zhu, you are actually in cahoots with Su Fong, Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan finally understood. He was surprised and shocked, as expected of a Daozu of the Yi clan. Although he had encountered a sudden change, Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan's Tao saint reacted extremely quickly. He reached out to grab Su Fong. His intention was very simple. It was obvious that Su Fong and Holy Venerate Xie Zhu had set up a trap to kill him and Daozu of the Yi clan. Now that Daozu of the Yi clan was about to die, Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan would not be able to keep his life. Only by grabbing Su Fong would he have a chance to escape. Furthermore, he still could not forget about the longevity lamp. If he grabbed Su Fong, not only would he be able to keep his life, he would also be able to obtain the longevity lamp. You don't know your place. Su Fong laughed coldly. He punched out. A murderous intent accompanied the sound of the heavenly Tao. It contained a shocking heavenly Tao aura that could kill all life. It surged toward Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan. Everything under the heavens belongs to the king. Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan sensed Su Fong's attack, which made him feel a fatal threat. He was shocked and shouted loudly. His voice contained a kind of heavenly Tao. At this moment, Hu People Daozu of the Yi clan had become a ruler of all things. With a single word, he could control the fate of all things. With a single word, he could control the heavenly Tao. The time and space around him were instantly imprisoned, and he had become the supreme ruler of time and space. Daozu of the Yi clan had already comprehended part of the heavenly Tao's true essence. He had mastered the heavenly Tao's supreme principles. All laws originated from the heavenly Tao, so they were above the laws. It meant that they could set the rules and display the power of the heavenly Tao. Boom. At this moment, not only had Su Fang's blood demon Dharma body become abnormally powerful, but it had also almost completely merged with Slayer's heart, making the blood demon Dharma body even more shocking. In addition, Su Fang had experienced countless battles in the first heavens test. He had also mastered the way to display the blood demon Dharma body and Slayer's heart. The power of this punch was unparalleled. Su Fang's killing intent and the heavenly Tao's voice attack collided with the Hu people Daozu's heavenly Tao. Boom, boom, boom. The collision between the killing intent and the heavenly Tao caused an earth-shattering explosion. Everything controlled by Hu people Daozu's heavenly Tao was shaken. Layer by layer, it shattered, and Su Fang was also forced back. You can actually shake me? Hu people Daozu's body shook. A killing intent invaded his heart of Tao, causing it to tremble. Cracks appeared on his heart of Tao. He looked at Su Fang. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Daozu and Tao Saint were two completely different realms. In the human world, it was impossible for a Tao Saint to shake a Daozu. This was common knowledge, unless it was a Tao Saint of a foreign race who had mastered powerful magical powers or forbidden spells. Su Fang was only at the lower level of Tao Saint, but he could actually shake Hu people Daozu. This completely overturned Hu people's understanding of Daozu. At the same time, his arrogance as a Daozu was shattered. The disdain he had for Su Fang was now completely gone. Su Fang, boy, I didn't expect you to become so powerful. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. But although you're powerful, it won't be that easy to kill this human Daozu. Back down. Give this human Daozu to me. I've just ascended and need a great tonic. Saint Sieju's surprised voice rang out. Then he laughed maniacally. That's fine. Don't let him escape. Don't worry. With the help of these corpse flames, I promise to refine him into nothing. Chapter 3168. Hu people Daozu used a powerful ability, Xian Bao, in an attempt to break out of the corpse flame world. His strength was indeed extraordinary, and he was stronger than Daozu of the Yi clan by a bit. He was considered a powerful Daozu among the human Daozu. However, he was currently trapped in the corpse flame world, and Xie Zhu controlled the corpse flames. At the same time, he used the extremely powerful Xian Bao evil flames to trap Hu people Daozu. Hu people Daozu used all his abilities, but he still couldn't break out of the corpse flame world. As time passed, the corpse flames and Xian Bao evil flames continued to devour his aura. Sooner or later, he would follow in the footsteps of the Yi clan Daozu. Xie Zhu, we have no enmity between us. Why do you have to make me your enemy? I am a subordinate of the Tensei people. If you kill me, the Tensei people won't let you go. Why do you have to offend the powerful Tensei people for a human cultivator? Hu people Daozu seemed to have given up on escaping. He started to use the Tensei people to threaten Xie Zhu. Xie Zhu smiled. To be honest, I am a bit afraid of the Tensei people. The Tensei people are a higher race among the chaotic races, and I am just one person. How can I not be afraid? Unfortunately, I owe Su Fang a big favor, and I will serve him for thousands of years. I will do whatever he wants me to do. You human Daozu, just accept your fate. A Daozu expert like you is actually going to listen to a human Tao Saint? Hu people Daozu revealed a look of disbelief. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. That little Tao master from the Jiuxuan Heavenly Profound Realm Finals had been as insignificant as an ant. Who would have thought that he would have grown to such a terrifying extent that he could make a foreign Daozu obey his orders? Seeing that threatening Saint Xie Zhu was useless, Hu people Daozu turned his attention to Su Fang. Su Fang, you should know the consequences of offending the Tensei people. Not only you, but the entire human race will suffer. Hurry up and ask Saint Xie Zhu to release me. Su Fang's mocking laughter could be heard. It's precisely because I'm afraid of the Tensei people that I want to silence them. If you can't even see this, then you've lived for so many years in vain. Even Daozu of the Yi clan has been killed by me, so why would I leave you alive? Hu people Daozu's heart sank. He then shouted angrily, Su Feng, I'm also a top expert of the human race. If you kill me, it'll be a great loss to the human race. Instead, it'll benefit the foreign races. What's the difference between you and those foreign races who want to destroy the human race? Su Feng let out a cold laugh. Only now do you remember that you're a human cultivator? When the foreign races invaded the human world, the human race should have worked together to fight against them. However, you 5 god clans fled the Jiuquan divine realm in order to preserve your strength and joined the Tensei people. You're now a dog slave of the foreign races. How can you still be considered a human? Hu people Daozu had no words to refute. His tone softened. Su Feng, Hu people may have gone overboard with you back then, but you've also killed so many experts and geniuses of our race. Those grievances should be forgotten. I can swear a heavenly Dao oath. As long as you let me go this time, I'll definitely keep my mouth shut. Ha ha! Su Feng chuckled. I, Su Feng, can let go of what happened in the central profound divine realm. However, when the western profound mountain was surrounded by the foreign race's army, not only did you 5 god clans not help, you even took advantage of the situation. This time, you and Daozu of the Yi clan even tried to kill me. At that time, did you ever think of letting Su Feng go? Hu people Daozu shouted in a low voice, What do you want? Su Feng's domineering voice rang out. If you submit to me and accept my shackles, I might spare your life. I'm a great expert of the Daozu. Why would I submit to a mere Dao saint like you? Hu people Daozu rejected decisively. What a joke. Not only was he a Daozu, but he was also the leader of the Hu people of the 5 god clans. He had a high status and power. Why would he submit to a lowly Dao saint? Moreover, although he was trapped in shackles, he still had some confidence in escaping from the corpse flame abyss. Why would he submit to Su Feng so easily unless it was a matter of life and death? Su Feng's murderous voice rang out. In that case, Holy Sage Xieju, I'll leave this person to you. Haha, I have another powerful cultivation material. Holy Sage Xieju laughed evilly and smugly. Then, he activated the evil flames of the corpse flame and the corpse flame to surge toward Hu people Daozu. A mere lower-level Dao saint cultivator and a Dao ancestor, who just became a Dao ancestor, want to kill me? Hu people Daozu suddenly let out a domineering cry. A golden flying sword shot out of the Taoist palace. The flying sword erupted with a domineering qi that could make all things submit and destroy all things. Its aura was extremely shocking. It surpassed the limits of the king-grade Xian Bao. It had the eternal aura of a primordial heavenly treasure. The terrifying sword qi tore through the shackles of the corpse flame world and shattered Holy Sage Xieju's evil flames of the corpse flame and the corpse flame. A primordial heavenly treasure? Holy Master Xieju let out an exclamation of shock and horror. Then he sneered disdainfully. It's not a primordial heavenly treasure. It's just a half-finished product made from the prototype of a primordial heavenly treasure. It turned out that Hu people Daozu's divine sword wasn't a primordial heavenly treasure. It was a Xian Bao that had been born in the chaos but hadn't been born successfully. Although it surpassed the king-grade Xian Bao, it was still far from a true primordial heavenly treasure. Although it's only a half-finished primordial heavenly treasure, it can easily break through the shackles. Which one of you can stop me now? Hu people Daozu laughed proudly. He was about to use the flying sword's divine power to break through the shackles and escape the corpse flame abyss. Who knew a mysterious purple qi suddenly descended and enveloped the flying sword. It turned into a purple wheel of light and released the shocking power of a Xian Bao, causing the half-finished primordial heavenly treasure to tremble. It was Su Fang who had activated his purple fate Dharma body. Although he couldn't control it, he successfully stopped the flying sword for a moment. Chi! A silver light flashed and landed on Hu People Daozu's flying sword. Heavenly Devourer Insect. The Heavenly Devourer insect had turned completely silver and exuded a shocking and savage aura. As soon as it landed on the flying sword, it began to frantically gnaw at it. The Heavenly Devourer insect could even devour a true primordial heavenly treasure. Hu People Daozu's flying sword wasn't even a primordial heavenly treasure. In an instant, the Heavenly Devourer insect had bitten a huge hole in it. The flying sword's light dimmed and trembled violently, trying to break free from the Heavenly Devourer insect. Hu People Daozu was dumbfounded. Then he realized in despair that not only was his flying sword damaged, but he couldn't control it anymore. That's the Heavenly Devourer insect? Su Fang, kid, I didn't expect you to have this kind of chaos exotic insect. This human Daozu deserves it. Ha ha. Holy Sage Xie Zhu wasn't surprised either. He frantically activated the corpse flame and the evil flame. Like a volcano erupting, he attacked Hu People Daozu fiercely. Hu People Daozu had to use all his strength to deal with Holy Sage Xie Zhu's attacks. At this time, Su Fang activated the heaven-vanquishing spike again, piercing Hu People Daozu's defenses and posing a great threat to him. At the same time, Su Fang continuously used his powerful will to attack Hu People Daozu's Dao heart, so that he couldn't divert his attention to deal with the attacks from the outside. Under the combined attacks of Su Fang and Holy Sage Xie Zhu, Hu People Daozu had completely lost his chance to escape. It looked like his life was in danger. Su Fang, I'm willing to submit to you and be your subordinate. Hu People Daozu finally begged for mercy. You won't give up until you see the coffin. It's too late for you to submit now. Su Fang laughed coldly. Screech. Su Fang used his willpower to display the bloody hell soul-slaying saber. The saber light, which was like a river of blood, fell on the body of the Dao ancestor of the Hu clan. It cut into his Dao heart, which shattered with a crack. Holy Sage Xie Zhu took the opportunity to activate the evil flames of annihilation, which seeped into Hu People Daozu's defenses. In an instant, his physical body and Dao palace began to burn. He turned into a giant burning candle. Su Fang, you killed me. The Tensei people will never let you go. Hu People Daozu roared with pain and hatred. Su Fang looked at Hu People Daozu indifferently, his Dao heart clear and open. Cultivators should be like this. They should take revenge if they have a grudge. Back in Jiuquan, Hu People Daozu had personally appeared and forced Xianzheng to cancel Su Fang's qualification to participate in the Jiuquan Grand Finals. Then, he had tried to kill Su Fang. At that time, to Su Fang, Daozu was the sky. He would never be able to surpass him. Now, Hu People Daozu had been destroyed by Su Fang. Su Fang couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment that surpassed the peak. At the same time, a strong sense of confidence rose up spontaneously. Holy Sage Xie Zhu and Su Fang didn't appear until Hu People Daozu's aura had completely disappeared. Holy Sage Xie Zhu sucked Hu People Daozu into his body. Just as he was about to take away the Yi Clan Dao Saint as well, Su Fang said, I want the Yi Clan Daozu's corpse. Holy Sage Xie Zhu said, You're going to use this human Daozu to reach the middle level of Dao Saint? In that case, he's yours. After all, I already have the essence of that Hu People Daozu. It'll be enough to stabilize the Daozu's level. Su Fang sucked Daozu's corpse into the Dao Palace and sealed it. Holy Sage Xie Zhu asked, Kid Su Fang, you must have gained a lot from your trip to the Reizeigu people this time, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have provoked two Daozu experts. Gains? Su Fang smiled bitterly. He still didn't know whether this trip to the ruins of God was a blessing or a curse. If he couldn't complete the Luai's original realms test, the consequence would be death. Then, Su Fang told Holy Sage Xie Zhu about the Divine Lords of 10 Directions. There are 3 divine lords of 10 directions? You should feel lucky. The one who sealed you should be the good corpse of the divine lord of 10 directions. If it were the evil corpse of the divine lord of 10 directions, he would be able to kill you even if you claim to be undying. That's true. I didn't expect the divine lord of 10 directions to be such a figure. Even I have to admire him. Well, since he died for the sake of the human race, I'll forgive him. Forgive the divine lord of 10 directions? Haha, I don't need your forgiveness. The evil corpse of the divine lord of 10 directions is sealed in the Sichuan mountain. You can go and kill him to vent your anger. Chapter 3169. I plan to stay in the godly ruins and try to reach the middle level of Dao Saint. Saint Xieju, you should stay in the godly ruins and stabilize Daozu's level. Su Fang had already become a zombie, and there were no barriers to reaching the middle level of Dao Saint. Now that he had Daozu's corpse, reaching the middle level of Dao Saint was only a matter of time. He planned to return to the human world after reaching the middle level of Dao Saint. Saint Xieju nodded and said, "This corpse flame abyss and a Daozu's corpse will help me stabilize Daozu's level. Don't worry and cultivate. I'll protect you." Su Fang left the corpse flame abyss and found something in a remote corner of the godly ruins. He set up a formation and prepared to reach the middle level of Dao Saint. I can fight Daozu when I'm at the lower level of Dao Saint. When I reach the middle level of Dao Saint, I might have the power to defeat Daozu. Not just among humans, but even among the other higher races, it's hard to find someone as powerful as me. Su Fang's eyes were like a person who was about to die of thirst in the desert and suddenly saw a clear spring. They were filled with the desire for power and the anticipation of reaching a higher level. Su Fang grabbed Daozu's corpse from the formation and smiled coldly. The Daozu, who used to be so high and mighty, had now become his cultivation material. Su Fang's speed of improvement was shocking. Sizzle! 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 Su Fang put his hands together and then spread them apart. His fingers immediately turned into 10 blood vines that wrapped around the Yi Dao Saint's corpse and sank into it. Sizzle! A Daozu great being's cultivation and life essence had all been given to Su Fang. The life essence in Daozu's corpse was too vast. Su Fang couldn't digest it all by himself, so he gave it to Tu Xiu, Yu Shui, and the others so that they could quickly become stronger. The devouring power of the sky-piercing Blood King vine was shocking, and Su Fang no longer had any barriers to cultivation, so his speed of improvement was shocking. About 5,000 years. Almost half of Daozu's corpse essence had been devoured. Qi. Not long after, a shocking amount of tribulation energy erupted from Su Fang's body. As expected, he was about to make a breakthrough. Su Fang hurriedly swallowed again and again. Then, he began to receive attacks again and again. A flame gradually burned on his body. It was the tribulation fire. Qi. Tribulation Qi and tribulation fire instantly enveloped him. Next, with each impact, a tremor would be set off in his body. He began to break through and transform continuously. The impurities in the placenta seeped out from his skin layer by layer. Su Fang had a smile on his face even though he was in immense pain. After persisting for a few days, the tribulation fire gradually disappeared, and Su Fang completed this transformation. Middle Divine Saint Realm. Even though he didn't die? The heaven-defying changes that occurred when one became a saint were truly astonishing. The Dao Palace became even deeper. Grand Mist energy occupied nearly 1% of the Dao Palace's area. Although this didn't seem like much, the truth was that it was incomparably terrifying. Once his Dao Palace completely transformed into a Grand Mist space, that would mean he had reached the peak of cultivation. His Dharma body and physical body had also undergone shocking changes. His aura was empty and divine. Every strand of his hair flickered with spiritual light. Every cell contained a majestic aura of life. His eyes became incomparably deep, like the chaos of nothingness. His eyes were filled with incomparable determination and strong confidence. My entire body feels different. However, this is far from enough. Thinking of the test in the Thunder Lake original realm and the temporarily sealed 10-directional Divine Lord Evil Corpse, Su Fang couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. He had to find a way to adapt to the Middle Divine Saint realm as soon as possible and then return to the human world as soon as possible to find a way to pass the test of the second heaven of the Thunder Lake original realm. He had originally planned to visit the heavenly tree race after the matter in the ruins of God was over. Su Fang had previously heard about Goddess Luo from a powerful elder of the celestial tree race, so he had given up on this idea. Next, Su Fang entered Fuyao Cave abode and began to wantonly devour the essence of Daozu's corpse. About 500 years. Su Fang had already spent about 30,000 years in the time formation inside Fuyao Cave abode. Su Fang had devoured much of the essence of Daozu's corpse. Only a small portion was left. Su Fang finally stabilized his cultivation at the Middle Divine Saint realm. The essence of Daozu's body had allowed Su Fang to ascend a step and reach the Middle Divine Saint realm. From this, one could see how vast Su Fang's physical body and Dao Palace were. Saint Xie, prepared to return to the human world. Su Fang came out of Fuyao Cavern abode, put it away, and sent a message to Saint Sovereign Xie. An evil flame flashed, and Holy Sovereign Xie appeared in front of Su Fang. He glanced at Su Fang and exclaimed, "Su Fang, you broke through so quickly? A human cultivator like you is simply not human." Su Fang scoffed, "You're an alien life form, you're not a human." Holy Master Xie smiled embarrassedly. He was once an expert of a foreign race whose might shook the world, and now he was a powerful expert of the Daozu. In front of Su Fang, he could not help but feel a little fearful, and even a sense of reverence. Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. Clang, clang. A series of hurried chimes rang out in the inner space of Heaven Pavilion. Every cultivator on every planet could hear it clearly. The alarm is ringing. A foreign race has invaded the Eastern Profound Divine Realm. Cries of alarm rose and fell one after another. All the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion fell into a great panic. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless cultivators flew out of the dojos on the various planets and flew out of the gate. In front of Heaven Pavilion, a ferocious beast of a foreign race that looked like a black bat floated in the air. When it spread its wings, it covered an area of 10,000 miles, like a floating continent. The bat monster's eyes flashed with an evil bloody light as it stared at Heaven Pavilion. Its eyes were filled with greed and bloodthirst, as if it saw the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion as delicious food. Hundreds of figures stood on the back of the bat monster. A dozen of them were foreign race cultivators, while the rest were human cultivators. Seeing the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion as if they were facing a great enemy, the leader of the foreign race Dao Saints, who wore black robes and had blood tattoos on his face, sneered disdainfully. "The human race is so cowardly. Heaven Pavilion, the center of a divine realm, is scared to this extent because of my arrival." The foreign race cultivators behind the black-robed Dao Saint also sneered disdainfully. A human youth in white robes said with a smile, "Now that the human world is terrified of the sacred race, how could the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion not be afraid when you come to Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion?" The black-robed Dao Saint sneered. "The human race? Other than that Su Fang who is somewhat extraordinary, the rest of the human race are either trash like those cultivators of Heaven Pavilion. They are only fit to become food and cultivation materials for powerful races. Otherwise, they are petty people like you, who only have the right to be slaves." The human youth was handsome, elegant, and had an extraordinary temperament. When he heard the black-robed Daozu's words, he was not angry. Instead, he nodded repeatedly. "My lord, your eyes are like torches. You can see through the human race at a glance. Before long, the human race will either be killed by the sacred race or become their slave. The foreign race cultivators all snorted disdainfully. Some of the human cultivators also looked at the elegant youth with disdain. Go. Tell the cultivators of Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion why I am here, the black-robed Tao Saint ordered. Yes. The elegant youth flew out from the bat monster's back and slowly flew to the top of Heaven Pavilion's square. Nearly 100,000 cultivators had gathered in the square in front of Heaven Pavilion's main gate. They were all powerful geniuses and elders of various dojos. Seeing the elegant youth fly over and the foreign race cultivators show no intention of attacking, the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion did not make a move. Cultivators of Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, listen carefully. The elegant youth looked down at the square. He no longer bowed and scraped before the foreign race cultivators. A domineering aura that looked down on all living beings arose spontaneously. He then shouted domineeringly, "The cultivators of Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, who entered Western Profound last time to participate in the heavenly contest, were all defeated by the sacred race. They are now shackled by the sacred race. If you want to save them, continue to send people to participate in the heavenly contest. Otherwise, none of them will survive." What? The elders and genius disciples who participated in the heavenly contest were all defeated? Impossible. There were so many powerful cultivators, including a powerful Tao Saint from Western Profound Mountain who came to Heaven Pavilion. How could they all be defeated by the foreign race? Cheating. The foreign race must have cheated and captured the elders and disciples of Heaven Pavilion with a scheme. The Daozu of the human race was present at the heavenly contest. How could they still be defeated so miserably? That traitor must be deliberately exaggerating to disturb the Tao hearts of our Heaven Pavilion cultivators. The cultivators of Heaven Pavilion were in an uproar. Then they roared angrily. Some were skeptical, some were shocked, and some were in despair. What was the heavenly contest? So, ever since the foreign race failed to attack Western Profound Mountain and the Divine Lord of 10 Directions was sealed in Western Profound Mountain, the foreign race stopped attacking the other divine realms. However, the foreign race did not stay idle. They sent out powerful cultivators to plunder and kill all over the human world. Later, the Daozu of the human race joined forces again and fought a great battle with the foreign race Daozu cultivators. In the end, both sides suffered losses, but no Daozu cultivators died. In the end, the Daozu cultivators of both sides came to an agreement. Within 10 million years, the Daozu cultivators of both sides were not allowed to attack cultivators below the Daozu level. The foreign race also stopped sending cultivators to attack the human forces. Both sides were waiting. The foreign race was waiting for the Divine Lord of 10 Directions to break the seal and sweep through the human world. The human race was also waiting. They were waiting for the birth of an immortal cultivator within 10 million years to resolve the human race's crisis. It was not impossible for the human race to have an immortal cultivator within 10 million years. After all, the Western Profound Daozu had taken a step that the human race had never taken before, and the Dongxian Daozu had also touched the edge of the immortal realm. Both sides had been quiet for more than 10,000 years. Chapter 3170. The conditions offered by the other races were also very tempting. As long as the humans won a battle, they would release a human cultivator of the same level who had been captured by the other races in the war between South Xian and West Xian, as well as various treasures that were hard to find in the human world. The other races' intentions were very obvious. They wanted to use the so-called heavenly tournament to attack the humans' morale and cause the human forces to crumble. There was no lack of courageous people among the humans. Coupled with the temptation of treasures and the fact that some of their peers or loved ones had been captured, they all requested to participate in the heavenly tournament at the Western Xian Divine Domain. After a discussion among the Daozu experts, the humans decided to send experts to participate in the heavenly tournament. For safety's sake, the humans even sent Daozu experts to personally oversee the event. Thus, the battles between the other races and the human cultivators unfolded in the Western Xian divine domain. The heavenly tournament proposed by the other races was divided into 3 levels: Dao Mystic, Dao Void, and Dao Saint. The Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion sent cultivators of all 3 levels to participate in the heavenly tournament. The strongest among them were the Wine Saint and the Migres Star Lord. The Wine Saint had luckily survived the Battle of Western Xian Mountain and stayed with Su Fang in the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion's Migres Star. Although the Heaven Pavilion treated the Western Xian cultivators very well, the Wine Saint knew that the Eastern Xian cultivators would be dissatisfied with the Western Xian cultivators as time passed. In addition, the Western Xian Mountain had been destroyed, and the Wine Saint had witnessed countless of his peers die at the hands of the other races. He had a burning hatred for the other races. Coincidentally, he had also recovered from his injuries, so he took the initiative to participate in the heavenly tournament. Other than the Wine Saint, many elders and disciples of the Western Xian Mountain and Heaven Pavilion had also participated in the heavenly tournament. The Migres Star Lord was one of them. Due to the conflict with Su Fang, the Migres Star Lord had punished himself by being imprisoned for 1,000,000 years. When he heard about the heavenly tournament, he planned to use this opportunity to atone for his crimes. Some of the more powerful elders and disciples of the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, Dongxian Daoyan, Dongxian Wuhan, and experts from the 3 highest profound sects and the Luo Shao sword sect had also participated in the heavenly tournament. He had never thought that he would receive such news. The scholarly youth took in the expressions of the cultivators of the East Profound Heaven Pavilion. He smiled gently and said, "It's because the cultivators of the human clan were not strong enough that they were suppressed by the experts of the sacred clan. The human clan experts witnessed it with their own eyes. Who would dare to use any tricks?" Everyone fell silent. That young man was right. With Daozu personally presiding over the heavenly fight, the non-humankind would never use any tricks to deal with human cultivators. Moreover, the goal of the foreign races was to use the heavenly battle assembly to attack the morale of the human race. Only by defeating the human cultivators in an open and honorable manner could they achieve their goal. Moreover, the higher-ups of Heaven Pavilion must have received the news long ago, but they suppressed it. The heavenly struggle assembly was a battle of life and death. As long as a human cultivator stepped onto the life and death stage, either a human cultivator or a non-humankind cultivator would die. If a human cultivator failed, and was captured by a non-humankind cultivator, Daozu would not be able to save him. Now, the non-humankind was using the captured human cultivators as a hostage to continue provoking Heaven Pavilion. The scholarly young man continued, "The sacred race will continue to give you a chance. If you want to save your fellow disciples, continue to send people to participate in the heavenly battle assembly. Isn't Su Fang in your Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion? Why is he acting like a coward now?" In the crowd, Tuo Qianji and the other higher-ups raised their brows. Only now did they realize that the non-humankind's purpose in holding the heavenly battle assembly was not only to attack the morale of the human race, but also to kill Su Fang. Su Fang was too important to the human race. How could they let him take the risk? Seeing that no one answered, the scholarly young man smiled embarrassedly and mocked. "Are the cultivators of Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion and Su Fang all going to be cowards?" Many cultivators of Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion were enraged. Suddenly a woman in the crowd shouted coldly at the scholarly young man, "Lin Shuang, you shameless villain. The Western Profound Divine Realm was attacked by the non-humankind, but you actually joined them and became their slave. Now you dare to come to Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion to show off." The scholarly young man looked at the woman and was stunned at first, but then he smiled and said, "So it's Miss Ling Qingyue. We haven't seen each other for many years, but your temper is still the same. This seat is no longer Lin Shuang of Frost Moon sect, who needs to curry favor with you. It turned out that this scholarly young man was Lin Shuang, who Su Fang had a conflict with in front of the Profound Gate when he went to Western Profound Mountain. Lin Shuang was the young sect master of Western Profound Frost Moon sect and one of the 10 young masters of Western Profound Divine Realm. When the Western Profound Divine Realm was attacked by the non-humankind, Frost Moon sect was destroyed, and Lin Shuang joined them and became their slave. Then Lin Shuang said shamelessly, "What's wrong with being a slave of the sacred race? Not only can you live, but you can also get all kinds of cultivation resources that are hard to get in the human world. Even if some of you want to join the sacred race, the lords of the sacred race won't take a liking to you. If I knew you were such a despicable and shameless person, I would have killed you back then." Ling Qingyue raised her cold eyebrows and said to Lin Shuang with murderous intent. Lin Shuang snorted disdainfully and ignored Ling Qingyue. Instead, he looked at Tua Qianji and said, "Does no one from Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion dare to fight? Then you can only watch as those Heaven Pavilion cultivators die at the hands of the sacred race. Fight! I want to participate in the Heavenly Scramble Conference and fight the non-humankind even if I have to die." The Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion cultivators on the square were all fired up and their fighting spirit was boiling. Tua Qianji said in a majestic voice, "Whether to fight or not, the higher-ups will decide after a discussion. Before the higher-ups make a decision, no one is allowed to go to the Western Profound Divine Realm. Otherwise, you will be punished as a traitor." The Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion cultivators all fell silent. The higher-ups of Heaven Pavilion clearly intended to give up on those Heaven Pavilion cultivators who were shackled by the non-humankind. Otherwise, they would have sent people to rescue them long ago. It was not strange for the higher-ups to make such a decision. So many powerful experts and disciples had been defeated by the non-humankind. If they sent more people, they would only be sending themselves to their death. Naturally, the higher-ups would not send more people. At this time, the non-humankind Tao Saint's cold and sharp voice rang out from afar. "I have already said that the human race is a lowly race. They have no strength and don't even have the courage to face their enemies. What right does such a lowly race have to exist in the primal chaos?" Many Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion cultivators were filled with righteous indignation, but they had no words to refute. Suddenly a calm and cold voice rang out from the void. "Is that so? Whether the human race has the right to survive in the primal chaos is not up to a dark bat cultivator like you to judge." Then, a figure stepped out of the void and appeared in the sky above the square. Everyone's eyes froze when they saw that figure. Su Fang is back. It is indeed Su Fang. After a short period of silence, cries of surprise rang out from the square. That figure was Su Fang, who had rushed back to the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion from the Reizegu people's ruins of God. After Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu became a Daozu, he had the ability to travel across the primal chaos in an instant. It had only taken him a mere 1,000 years to reach the Heaven Pavilion from the primal chaos. What Su Fang did not expect was that he would see this scene when he returned to the Heaven Pavilion. Swoosh! Swoosh! The non-humankind experts all looked at Su Fang. "Su Fang, you're finally back. Lord Daozu has asked about you many times. Since you're back, quickly go and greet Lord Daozu." Tua Qianji hurriedly said. His intention could not be more obvious. He was worried that Su Fang would agree to participate in the Heavenly Battle Conference on impulse. If Su Fang failed in the Heavenly Battle Conference and fell into the hands of the non-humankind, it would be a heavy blow to the human race. The consequences would be 10 times worse than the death of a Daozu expert. Thus, Tua Qianji planned to let Su Fang enter the Heaven Pavilion as soon as possible. Then, Tua Qianji sensed Su Fang's aura. His expression changed instantly. "Middle Dao Saint? Su Fang, you've become a Middle Dao Saint." Many of the Heaven Pavilion cultivators in the square gasped. Everyone was shocked. When Su Fang left the Heaven Pavilion, he was supposed to break through to the Tao Saint level. At that time, everyone was already shocked. How many years had it been? Not only had Su Fang successfully become a Tao Saint, but he had also reached the middle Tao Saint level. What kind of heaven-defying speed was this? When Su Fang was in the Tao Void realm, he already had the ability to kill a Tao Saint. If he used the longevity lamp, he could even injure Daozu. Now that Su Fang had reached the middle Tao Saint level, how terrifying would his strength be? I was lucky. It was just a fluke. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly at Tua Qianji. Lucky? Tua Qianji smiled bitterly. If good luck could allow one to improve at such a heaven-defying speed, then all the cultivators in the Hong Tian divine realm would have extraordinary luck. Wouldn't that mean that there would be experts everywhere? The bat monster sensed Su Fang's aura and became restless. It let out a sharp roar at Su Fang. The bat monster's roar contained the ability to attack one's origin soul. An ordinary Tao Saint's soul might be injured. However, Su Fang was no ordinary Tao Saint. Moreover, his soul was so powerful that even Daozu, who was at his peak, would not be able to hurt his soul, let alone the bat monster. How dare a mere monster of a foreign race bare its fangs and claws in front of me, Su Fang? Su Fang frowned and a powerful killing intent burst out from his glabella. Human cultivator, how dare you? The black-robed Tao Saint on the back of the bat monster opened his mouth and shouted angrily. Invisible ripples collided with Su Fang's killing intent. Boom! 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 Su Fang's killing intent shattered the attack of the Tao Saint of a foreign race. The remaining power did not diminish and continued to attack the mind of the bat monster. The bat monster let out a blood-curdling screech and fell headfirst to the ground. The foreign race experts and human cultivators were also affected. They were all frightened and fell from the back of the bat monster. They were almost unable to fly and were all in a sorry state.